to school. You're the real doers. And don't let Joe Biden tell you any different.
Yeah, and shout out to all my people that are still heading home from the bars. Yeah. I was there with you at one point.
Sunday night bar visits.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
This is like painful.
Oh, yeah. There were some strange decisions I made as a child.
Yeah. You kind of hit 40, your body changes. You just can't do that stuff anymore. That's like,
that's not in the brochure. They don't go over that. The idea that you hit 40 and then it's like everything's just starts falling apart. It's like the warranty runs out. You're like, hey, that didn't click and pop yesterday. What's going on here? And yeah, that's awful.
How'd you hurt your foot? I slept weird on my foot. Or so, it's like you end up with that. And then if you have too much salt,
yes,
it's painful the next day.
Yeah. I still remember playing soccer all the way through college and then beyond, and having players go down writhing in pain from cramps. I get them in bed now. That's great. I had to run miles.
Bed,
I know, but I had to run miles before. Now, try to scratch my foot, calf pain and cramp. That's great. This is wonderful. Getting old sucks. I'm sorry.
Well, we've got a whole lot to cover on today's show. Joining us in the 7 o'clock hour is going to be Erin Lee, founder of Stop Gender Ideology. She's working on 3 ballot initiatives that you're going to see on your ballot this year. 1, to end boys participating in girls' sports. 2, advancing parental rights. And 3, a ballot initiative that will stop gender surgeries for kids under the age of 18 until they can consent as adults to doing that. So she'll be joining us in the 7 o'clock hour. 8 o'clock hour, Dr. David Murphy, new article out about how the Biden doctrine sets the Middle East aflame. So we'll be talking with him in the 8 o'clock hour. Then we'll be covering Alabama's IVF ruling and the illegal immigrant murder that took place in Georgia of that nursing student. All of that on the Jeff and Bill Show. But let's get to the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff. Monday morning, 45 degrees, clear in Denver, windy, dry conditions, highs in the low 60s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the National Weather Service issued a red flag warning for nearly the entire Front Range and Eastern Plains, where this comes as heavy snow is expected in the mountains tonight. Multiple agencies are still working to contain the West Monument Creek fire. Colorado Springs resident Tracy McCrary says the fire brought back bad memories from the 2012 Waldo Canyon fire.
We obviously hate it, and it's scary, and that whole little drop of PTSD from the last time. Yep. But we were very blessed and very fortunate then, and we'll just have faith that that'll happen again.
Officials with the Air Force say the fire is being monitored by the U.S. Forest Service, and it's currently moving west into the Pike National Forest. New information is out on a deadly Colorado crash making national headlines. 3 members of the University of Wyoming swim and dive team lost their lives last Thursday near Livermore in Larimer County. State troopers say the driver swerved around a vehicle that had slowed down in front of them and then went off the shoulder, rolling several times. 2 other team members were hurt and have since been released from the hospital. Investigators are not ruling out speed, impairment, or other distractions. 2 people were shot and killed at a construction site in Denver on Sunday. Police say a site manager arrived and confronted 2 people who may have been committing a burglary and was allegedly attacked by the pair. The site manager reportedly shot both during the altercation, one of whom died at the scene, while the other died at the hospital. Police say the site manager remained on the scene and is cooperating with the investigation. The search for a black Camaro continues following a deadly hit and run in Lakewood. Happened Friday night on Kipling and West 23rd Avenue, where a car hit and killed a pedestrian before speeding away. A Medina alert for the 2014 black Chevy Camaro with a black Colorado license plate reading DWB P87 was issued, and the police say the car may have damage to the front end and windshield. Former President Trump is the winner in South Carolina in the South Carolina's GOP presidential primary, coming out on top over the weekend, again, over Nikki Haley. Here's President Trump as he focuses on President Biden.
And we're going to be up here on November 5th, and we're going to look at Joe Biden, and we're going to look him right in the eye. He's destroying our country, and we're going to say, Joe, you're fired. Get out. Get out, Joe. You're fired.
The Nuggets over the Warriors, 119-113. I don't know who's calling me right now. Nikola Jokic, 18th double of the season, 32, 16, and 16. The Avalanche play host to the Dallas Stars tomorrow night. Number 24, CSU, they play host to Nevada tomorrow night. They have lost 3 of their last 4.
I think that was Joe Biden giving you a call. He didn't like that.
You know what? I
comment
agree.
You made.
He wakes up that early. I mean,
no, he's one of Bill's guys staying out late at the bar from the night before.
Right, exactly. I mean,
this is a drunk call.
It's 8:06 Eastern time. 6. I mean, he still has like 4 hours of sleep left, doesn't he? Goodness gracious! All right, 45 in Denver. Jeff and Bill just kicked off the new week, and they continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
So we've been working with the Nikki Haley campaign to try to get her for an interview tomorrow. What's the over-under on that happening, you think, Bill?
Well, I think after Koch brothers pulled the cash this weekend, I thought we were going to get like a 70% chance because she needs the press, needs the publicity. Koch money goes away. I think we're down to like 20%. It's all up to them. That's the issue, is if she still had this glimmer in her eye that she was going to be running through the end of Super Tuesday, then maybe we'd get something, but no. No, I don't think so.
It'll be interesting to see if she even does the rally tomorrow. She's supposed to do it tomorrow at Wings Over the Rockies tomorrow afternoon. We outreached to her team, invited her in. We are not a political operation here. We're not picking winners or losers in this campaign. So we invite everybody on, including Democrats, including independents. Robert F. Kennedy, come on, man.
Yeah.
Love to have you on. But
she was interested last week.
She was.
They were
we
talking
got pretty far into the
excited.
email exchange there.
And now
it was Colorado.
I saw that announcement of the Koch brothers pulling the money from Nikki's campaign. And in my mind, I heard the sad trombone. I'm like, oh, crap. And it was mostly selfish. In all honesty, I'm like, oh, crap. Her campaign's over. But I was thinking about the show. I'm like, oh,
it's really cool. We could have had her in studio here. And we were
so
working
cool.
On that. So it's not a totally done deal.
No. Maybe she can announce that she's leaving the race on
the show. So Bill and I were talking prior to this. When I worked on Rick Santorum's presidential primary in 2012, he withdrew prior to losing Pennsylvania.
That's interesting.
He was not going to do that.
Yeah, not the calculation Nikki made. Now, what do you think? Now, given your experience, what do you think about that? How did it help and or hurt Nikki's campaign?
That will carry around with her for a very long time.
Good point.
She lost her own state in a presidential primary.
This
could be 4 years from now when she's running. People are going to be like, she lost her own state in a presidential primary.
That was the next question. What does it do in 4 years? I think part of this is her establishing that I was the most credible or the one that stayed, in the ring last with the Donald. So
I think that's the point, right? If you're not going to, so there's essentially 4 reasons to run for president.
Yeah.
One, most bases, I want to get famous.
Yeah.
And this gives me a little bit of a bully pulpit. It's like the Chris Christie, right? No one wants you to be president, but you get a little bit of airtime.
Yeah. I think that's why Bernie Sanders ran as well in the Dems. He knew he didn't have a shot.
Yeah.
But he just wanted to be more famous. He wanted to raise his profile. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's
it
one
works.
reason.
Yeah.
Second reason is, well, maybe not this year, but in future years, I could be the nominee, right? So think Mitt Romney 2008 against John McCain 2008, right? John McCain wins, but Mitt Romney goes out there and lays the groundwork so that 4 years later, he's the guy to be put in. Because name ID matters. It really, really matters when it comes to running for president. Third is to audition for a cabinet position.
Yeah.
That's Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yes, that is. On a side note, you see CPAC, he tied for the Veeps, the straw poll for the Veep. That's
they liked
interesting.
him.
Yeah. That's a whole different discussion, but not right now. But yeah, I think that's what Ramaswamy's doing. He's auditioning for Veep. And I think there were some other candidates out there that didn't necessarily jump in the race that were auditioning. One of those for me is Kerry Lake. I think Lake was trying to audition over the past couple of years. And I honestly think that Marjorie Taylor Greene was also doing an audition because
100%.
she was showing, I'm not necessarily, I can be the rabble rouser, but I can also go along with the rules. And I think that was her tack in this last congressional session was, no, I can be the rule follower too. See, I can be the good girl and I can support when we're going this way. I think that's what she was trying to do. It didn't work out, but I think that's what she was trying.
Right. The audition side. And then, of course, I want actually to be the president. So those are the four reasons that you run. I was always a little surprised that Rick Santorum didn't take a cabinet position. I think he was offered a cabinet position by Trump and he never took it.
That's interesting.
Which I think would have been good for him.
Yeah, I think it would.
To put him in that spotlight, because since then he's worked on the effort to change the Constitution without having to go through the amendment process. I'm forgetting.
Yeah, it's the new Constitutional Convention.
The Constitutional Convention,
which is a really weird idea.
Right.
Okay.
So he's been running around doing that. But Nikki Haley, we'll have to see. Tomorrow we are going to have Lauren Boebert on. She'll be joining us.
That'll be good.
And we'll see where we can fit Nikki Haley and if she decides to join us. So if you're listening, Nikki Haley's staff, you're still welcome. Love to have you. Hope you still do the rally, because I think that's the last time anyone running for president on the Republican side is going to visit the state of Colorado this next cycle.
Yeah. And I'm not even certain we're going to get a Dem, because I don't think it matters.
Right.
Given if it is Trump, Biden, given how well Biden has done against Trump in the state, I don't think there's any reason to come.
What has driven the support of Biden is college-educated women in the state of Colorado. So Colorado is one of the highest college-educated states in the nation. They have all swung towards Biden. And you can parse that any way you want. You could look at that and go, well, the intelligent people are going towards Biden, or those that have been indoctrinated in higher education have gone towards Biden.
Yeah.
So you can parse that both ways.
Oh, absolutely.
But
the one thing you can't do is discount them as a voting population.
Yes, 100%.
You can't use whatever conclusion you come to. You can't then say, well, that's why we don't have to listen to them. No. You're going to get burnt if you do not talk to them, because they will make the decision in this day.
100%. That's exactly right. Arapahoe, Jeffco, Douglas County, all of those. All right. I want to get into this issue because I want to get feedback from the listeners of 710 KNUS. So please feel free to give us a call on this. I want to talk Alabama Supreme Court embryo ruling. Okay. This is something that's popped up that's not a major division within the Republican Party, but a point of disagreement within the conservative movement. And it's something that should be talked about. So the Alabama Supreme Court ruled last week that couples who are trying in vitro fertilization and lost frozen embryos in an accident at a South Alabama storage facility can sue under the state's wrongful death law. Okay. So let me give you some background on this case. You had three couples that had frozen embryos stored at a Alabama storage facility. An unauthorized person got into the storage facility, messed around with the storage of these embryos, and as a result, these embryos died. That's the background of this case. So they sued, not criminally, but civilly, the embryo storage facilities, that they would be held liable for wrongful death. And the Alabama Supreme Court looked at statutes and the Constitution of Alabama and said, because the state of Alabama believes that life begins at conception, that these are then lives, that the Alabama storage facility can be held liable for wrongful death. Now, this has spun up a whole bunch of other stuff, okay? Since then, 3 providers have paused the often used fertility treatments while they sort out the legal implications. This is the Associated Press reporting. The ruling is the first of its kind and extends a theory championed by some pro-life groups that embryos and fetuses should be considered children and be afforded legal protection into a new realm. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. I think the decision was rather narrow, just said in this particular case, because of the Constitution in Alabama, that there is life begins at conception, that these people have a right to sue the Alabama storage facility for wrongful death. Now, does this end in vitro fertilization? No. Does it put a greater legal burden upon these in vitro fertilization storage facilities? Absolutely. But I think Trump gets a little off here, and I think Kari Lake gets a little off. So let's play Trump's audio here.
We want to make it easier for mothers and fathers to have babies, not harder. You know that. That includes, and you saw this, it was a big deal over the last few days. That includes supporting the availability of fertility treatments like IVF in every state in America. You've been seeing Alabama. It's been a big story. Like the overwhelming majority of Americans, including the vast majority of Republican, conservatives, Christians, and pro-life Americans, I strongly support the availability of IVF for couples who are trying to have a precious little beautiful baby. I support it. And today I'm calling on the Alabama legislature to act quickly to find an immediate solution to preserve the availability of IVF in Alabama, and I'm sure they're going to do that. The Republican Party should always be on the side of the miracle of life and the side of mothers and fathers and beautiful little babies. Have to be on that side.
So that was Trump at a rally over the weekend dealing with this IVF issue. So in part, politics has gotten all mixed up in this, right? So even the Associated Press says that the decision was narrow and has to do with whether or not you could sue for wrongful termination.
That doesn't stop the politicians.
ban IVF, okay?
Yes.
It doesn't ban IVF. And the left is running around, of course, because the abortion issue absolutely culturally leans their way right now. So they're going to use this, right? They're going to run out there and say, look, conservatives in the Supreme Court in Alabama want to take away IVF and all your abilities to build families. And if you're infertile and that's not something you can do, look at these evil Republicans that are stopping you from doing that. Okay. And in part, Trump's trying to respond to that because oftentimes perception matters more than reality in politics.
Oh, yeah.
So if Trump's going into an election where culturally pro-abortion sides are winning the cultural battle, he doesn't want to be thrown into that camp and go, look, Donald Trump supports banning IVF. He doesn't. Republicans aren't arguing that. But I think Republicans absolutely have a fair critique that IVF is not properly regulated. So let me take you to Kari Lake's statement over the weekend as well. 1 in 6 Americans struggles with fertility issues. In the Senate, I will advocate for increased access to fertility treatment for women struggling to get pregnant. IVF is extremely important for helping countless families experience the joy of parenthood. I oppose restrictions. Okay, so right now there's no restrictions on IVF. The Supreme Court just said, hey, if this state believes, and this is the state Supreme Court, not U.S., if this state constitution believes that life begins at conception and you have little lives that have begun at conception, and because of the IVF storage facility's negligence, those little babies, those little lives died, then yes, the families related to those can sue the company for wrongful death. There's no restrictions. No one's passed any laws on restrictions. They're not even, the Supreme Court is even allocating restrictions. They're just saying, logically, this makes sense. Okay. Lila Rose, who's been a speaker at the Western Conservative Summit for many years, she's a good friend of the program. She leads a pro-life organization titled Live Action, responded to Kari Lake. This is flat out wrong. America has less regulation of IVF than most of Europe. Approximately 1 million embryos remain frozen in the USA. Parents can create and destroy them at will. Multiple babies can be implanted and then, quote, selectively reduced, unquote, aka killed by abortion. Men can purchase eggs and women's sperm and surrogates with little or no vetting process. We treat embryos like commodities and dehumanize them frequently. It's time for this all to change. So here's my question to the listeners of 710 KNUS. Who do you agree with? Is it right for pro-life conservatives to want to seek greater regulations upon IVF? And that wasn't what the Supreme Court in Alabama ruling was, but it spun up this bigger conversation. Is it right for pro-life conservatives to seek greater regulation on the practice of IVF? Or is Kari Lake right? And I don't think they're necessarily opposed, but Kari Lake did say, I oppose restrictions. I oppose restrictions on this. So Lila Rose pointing out you have 1 million embryos remaining frozen in the United States that people can, create, destroy them at will. You can selectively reduce them. You can kill them via abortion. You can purchase eggs. So Lila concerned about the commodification of this industry where we're picking babies, we're eliminating Down syndrome babies, we're getting into that whole process. We're not ethically approaching it. If we really believe that life begins at conception, then this should be closely monitored. I don't think that Lila Rose is calling for an outright ban of IVF. I have not seen that, but I have seen a lot of conservatives raise concerns that if we really believe life begins at conception, you can't just have 1 million frozen embryos sticking around and killing them whenever you want. There needs to be some type of ethical guidance through this. Or is this feeding into the left's political challenge that we are restricting choice in this country, and it's just going to create bigger and bigger political problems for us this fall? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Do you agree with Trump on this too? See, listening to Trump's comment, I go, he's kind of saying both things, right? Like, we want to build families. We want to respect the sanctity of life. Yes, I agree with that. But you got to have some type of ethical guidance on this IVF stuff. Hey, and if IVF helped you, I'd love to hear that story too, because I think it would help shape our thinking on this. Did it help you? Did you follow the ethical rules? Did you go through it and you didn't like it? You think it was a big problem? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Let's go to Tony in Littleton. Tony, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Tony.
Tony's got a call back. I pushed the wrong button. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. It is Monday
morning.
Tony, I am sorry. I fat-fingered and I hit the button below you, and then I pushed a button and it disconnected. I'm sorry. If you call back, I'll put you right at the front of the line.
Let's go to Joan from Lakewood.
Okay, pushing the right button. There we go. There. Now I got the right button. I'm so sorry.
Joan, do you have any thoughts on this issue? Do you agree with Trump and Kari Lake or Lila Rose? What's up?
I got to tell you, I was a healthcare professional, and I think that I have never seen any good come from any kind of government regulation.
No good of any kind coming from government. How about speeding laws?
Have you seen anybody pulled over for speeding lately?
Yeah.
Have you been out there on the road?
Yeah. Yeah. And I would like some of them to get pulled over a little bit more frequently. I was driving down Parker Road this morning and there's guys going like 80. It's like, come on, man.
Oh, you haven't done 225 from Parker to 70 in the afternoon. That's the Autobahn. There is no speed limit.
I'm not a libertarian. I think there's some role for government.
I called in because I went to the Douglas County dinner last night.
Yeah, how was that?
It was okay. I think it could have used some regulation.
That's good.
I saw George, and we talked a little bit. It was nice to see him. And I won the VIP tickets for the Western Conservancy.
Fantastic. Joan, that's great. We're going to enjoy treating you like a queen.
I'm looking real forward to that. And then you missed last fall when I talked about the Centennial dinner because I like to talk about what people were wearing and who was there, and it kind of gets to be a red carpet thing. So there were a lot of people there in very pretty dresses. I was underdressed.
Now, Joan, I want to know, was there a particular style of dress and or color scheme? Were we looking at more falls and more springs? You know, because you're the fashion.
It's going to be red, white, and blue,
what do you think? I don't know. I'm curious. What do we see?
Well, I saw an awful lot of ball gown kind of things that were they were shapely. I mean, they weren't like fluffed out ball gowns. They were all, all tight stuff. So
for all those people that have been exercising like I haven't, okay.
Right, that's true. There's
good.
a lot of beautiful women in Douglas County, and they had monocolored jewel tones, and very high high heels. There was one woman there who was dressed in this red, white, and blue. It kind of looked like a flapper dress with
cool
sparkles and stuff. Very pretty, very nice. And then I saw Lauren Boebert there, and she always, because she's so tiny and stuff, she's just, you want to hate her because she looks that way. But
hey, Joan, who was the best speaker last night? Who really got you fired up and connected with you?
The best thing that the person I talked to was actually Mike Beasley. He is wonderful.
Mark Beasley?
Yeah.
Yep.
Beasley.
Good.
Yeah, Mark's a good one. He's a winner of the Faith, Family, and Freedom Award multiple years at the Western Conservative Summit.
Well, he's just spectacular. And then I did hear Colonel Allen West, and he was really wonderful. Had a very interesting message about how to stop fighting between us and how we have to recognize who we're supposed to be fighting and that we need to be all on the same page.
That's a good message.
It was a very good message. It really was.
Joan, I so much appreciate the call. Thanks so much. We're going to get to Tony here in just a second. Here's the question that we have. Carrie Lake tweeting, I oppose restrictions on IVF after the Alabama ruling. And pro-life leaders going, well, hold on a second. In many ways, IVF is very, the way it's currently run right now in America is not very pro-life. 1 million embryos remaining frozen. Parents can create and destroy them at will. Multiple babies can be implanted and then selectively reduced. Where do you fall on this? Trump's tweeting about it. Carrie Lake's tweeting about it. And pro-life leaders are tweeting about it as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts. 303-696-1971 or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Tony, you're up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
We are off and running this morning, already discussing where you fall on the IVF issue. Carrie Lake saying, I oppose restrictions on IVF after the Alabama ruling. Pro-life leaders like Lila Rose saying this is flat out wrong. America has less regulation of IVF than most of Europe. Approximately 1 million embryos remain frozen in the USA. Parents can create and destroy them at will. Let us know. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710KNUS app. Tony, before we get to you, Blake Olson, give us a little preview of what you're working on for the news.
All righty, Jeff. Well, it should be a nice day outside. However, there is a red flag warning, so be careful with fires in the area. There are fires in southern Colorado. The Air Force Academy is actually closed to the public today as crews work on the south end of the academy. There's a fire there. 2 people shot and killed at a construction site in Denver. We'll discuss that, talk about that story, and we'll hear from Nikki Haley, former President Trump also, and an Air Force service member set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy in D.C. on Sunday. He is dead. He was protesting Israel. So that and much more. And if you think the country is going nuts, we'll tell you why you should celebrate one nut today. So that and more at the top of the hour.
Wait, it's not my birthday. It's not my birthday. I don't know what we're celebrating.
We celebrate every day.
Every
for
night,
you,
yes.
Bill.
Every night.
I appreciate
That's
that.
right. We're on talk radio.
Thank you so
We
much.
celebrate them all.
That's
Let's
right.
go to Tony in Littleton. Tony, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning. I'm not sure regulation or limited regulation is the issue here. I think if I understand this case, the Supreme Court deemed that the fertilized egg is a human life, and as such, then would fall under their protections of human life, and they have some of the strictest regulations in the country. I don't think they allow the day after pill as an example. I'm not even sure where they stand on at least in that case. Now, the other issue there is, if I understand this, when women go through the process, 1, it's very expensive. 2, it's not covered by insurance. So they're pulling multiple eggs from these women, say a dozen, and then they are fertilizing all 12. And then 3 of them, maybe it worked. And the family only wants 1 child. So then they have the prerogative to then destroy those other 2, and then they can do some tests to make sure that there's not Down syndrome and so forth. If there's certain tests that they can run. So it is the leftovers that are indeed the problem, because up to this point they would destroy them, or could destroy them, or use them for families who couldn't even get through that process successfully, with the blessing of the parents, of course. So I think that's the issue, and that's why the hospitals and the clinics, and now everybody's running from this, because if it's human life, then that's murder, and under the Supreme Court's ruling, if I've understood this case. Now, one last point. Now, and I want to hear what you have to say is, if indeed the day after pill is illegal there, then, and this is of human life, then even 1 day later, you destroy that would be the same thing as a day after pill. So I think they may have opened a can of worms here that is going to create a problem, because maybe the day after pill should not be illegal. If you can destroy this infused egg in a test tube, then why can you not take that day after pill the next day? So I think they've actually opened a lot of questions here.
Tony, I appreciate it. So to clarify, the court was clear. And we lost Tony. Tony, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate that. The court was clear that they didn't have to say whether the fetus or embryos had constitutional rights. Okay. They were just saying that for the purposes of wrongful death law, they're persons or children. And so this, and again, remind you, this doesn't get into criminal stuff. So they're not saying that the in vitro fertilization storage facility murdered those babies, and ergo should be charged with manslaughter, murder, or anything like that. But for the purposes of wrongful death, and it's similar to what we have in Colorado in the sense of, if you remember that Fort Collins case where the pregnant woman was selling clothes and invited the woman, another woman over, and she killed the mother and then cut out the baby to try to take the baby. You end up with these really freakish cases that sometimes happen. And in the state of Colorado, it's not a human being, a baby prior to birth. In fact, we specifically ban that term in the state of Colorado. It's not a child. It doesn't have any rights whatsoever. So then you end up in this kind of bizarre place where they're property, but our culture is not really willing to say they're fully property, right? And so if the child dies at the hands of another person, is it considered murder in the state of Colorado? No, it's not. Is it a property crime like killing somebody's dog or a cow or something? No, it's not. So they end up in this kind of weird, interesting middle ground. And then you end up in this kind of bizarre effort to try to see if it ever took a breath. So if you remember that particular Fort Collins case I was just talking about, they're like doing an autopsy to see if it took a breath, because if it took a breath, then it's a human being. And so like we already as a culture dance around all these issues, and we come up with all these rules and laws and stuff like that to try to deal with it. The court in Alabama, reading the Constitution, which had said that the unborn child is a person, but they didn't necessarily say that this was a personhood. They didn't go that far. They just said for the purpose of wrongful death law, because of these in vitro fertilization storage facilities were negligent in caring for these children, they could be sued civilly. But then, as Tony pointed out, this now opens up a big can of worms with regards to IVF, because the pro-life community has serious concerns about the treatment of these embryos. And if you believe that life begins at conception, like that's where you fall on the line, then you're going to have concerns about how little embryos where conception has taken place are being treated.
This is interesting, and I like where Tony was going. I appreciate the table that he set, because I believe if we spend some time really examining the ruling inside of Alabama, it becomes much more complicated than it does on the surface, in part because of the rationale and justification of the Supreme Court justice, but mostly because of the determination that the embryo is a person without constitutional rights.
Yeah,
that's a problem, and isn't as strong of a defense of life as some may think.
Right.
Because the reason being, if we are going to define it as a person, but then say it has no constitutional rights, then abortion's okay.
I don't think that's what the Supreme Court ruling said.
It isn't, but that's the law of unintended consequences. And that's the problem in this entire discussion is we start from the premise of Roe versus Wade being repealed, and we get to the law of unintended consequences, which allows Alabama to say this. Now, Alabama has said it is a person without constitutional rights. That would affirm a pro-abortion stance.
I don't think they said it was a person without constitutional rights.
Yes, they said baby, but they said baby, but it doesn't have any constitutional rights for this case, etc. But if they can define that if it is a person, and we can define the person in this silo doesn't have any constitutional rights, it doesn't make any sense that those constitutional rights are transitory. I don't have them in some cases and not in others. So by defining that in the simple silo, they can't say the constitutional rights only don't exist here. That's not how our system works.
I think you're reading too broadly into it. I think it was a narrow decision with regards to wrongful death, civil law.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
They didn't want to get into this bigger issue. But the state constitution does say that.
Oh, I know they didn't want to, but that's my point is this is the law of unintended consequences. If you make this narrow ruling, it can't sit in that silo because logically and legally, it doesn't make sense. You can't say this person only does not have constitutional rights only in this case. This person then does not have constitutional rights in all cases. I have a hard time finding out there. And if they don't have those constitutional rights, then they don't necessarily have that right to life, which is the linchpin behind the Roe versus Wade. So we can then go ahead and abort the babies. Again, I'm not arguing one way or the other.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is this is the law of unintended consequences. We have not thought this through.
Right.
The people that
We're
made
debating this.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And the Supreme Court justice that made the ruling obviously did not think this through. What he did is in my opinion, rather than going to the Alabama Constitution and the law, he went to his Bible. And he decided what his Bible told him. And then that's the way, and that was his motivation. And I believe that what he has done is come to what is going to be a problematic decision. I'm not saying he's incorrect. I am going to honor his decision, but it is the law of unintended consequences because his decision opens up the path for those babies to not have rights. So we can have abortions. That's a problem if you're pro-life.
All right, I've got to look at the Alabama Constitution. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. So, I
would argue that it is a stretch that to go from we now have kicked the abortion decision back to the states. That means we wipe out IVF. I do think that's a stretch. I think it's a stretch for them to try to sue the intravenous clinic for wrongful death. In this case, I think that's a stretch. I think we have a series of stretches, and this is the law of unintended consequences.
Well, here's a question for you. Time. It always gets me on time.
I know.
We could have this longer. Okay.
Ask the question, and I'll answer it after the break.
Okay. And I'd love to hear from listeners as well. Feel free to give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. You were parents in this case.
Yeah.
You went through the process of IVF. You created these embryos. You are connected to these embryos. You feel like they are children of yours. You entrust them to an in vitro fertilization clinic who was negligent in taking care of them, and they died.
Yeah.
What is your response?
What does my contract say?
Right. And that's one of the responses here is you need to have better, these in vitro fertilizations need to up their contracts.
Yep, they do. And that would be, is that I have entered into.
But not the contract, but what do you personally, do you believe that you just lost a child as a result of this negligence? Or do you feel like you lost a quote, potential child or property or
I am
what?
in the potentiality realm.
Yeah.
That it is potentially a child. That sitting inside the freezer at that time, to me, not a child for a variety of different reasons. And I don't think that personally for me, it qualifies. Will I tell everybody else that they have to listen to me? No. But what I would say is that whoever used that in vitro fertilization clinic and whatever one you use, there is a contractual relationship that you signed a contract. They agreed to take care of these embryos or babies or whatever you want to call them a certain way. And if they did not fulfill that contract, then they are in violation. So for me, the idea of them losing the stuff that and I'm just going to use that again. God, that's a bad word to see. But they lost the babies. I'm just going to use it generally, saying it could be a storage facility. It could be a warehouse. It could be anything. Just where we're storing whatever it is. When they lose that stuff through their own negligence, they are liable. And so in this case, for me, it's the embryos. That's where I sit on this. I disagree with the idea of wrongful death. I can't get there because I'm still at the potentiality. I don't see. I just don't. I'm not there yet.
Let's get your calls, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Up next, you choose the news on the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier. Here are the top stories we're following. Hundreds of farmers have driven their tractors and caused complete gridlock here in Brussels. They're protesting what they say are burdensome environmental laws, as well as rising costs and falling prices for their products. Police have used water cannons to put out fires started by the farmers, who hope to put pressure on the EU's agriculture ministers who are meeting here today. The ministers will consider proposals to ease environmental targets and cut back on red tape. Move's environmental campaigners say only delays inevitable reforms to European farming. Billionaire Republican donors have said they will stop funding Nikki Haley's campaign to be the party's presidential nominee. This comes after Haley lost the South Carolina primary, a state where she had served 2 terms as governor, and where Caroline Malone reports from Charleston.
Well, Nikki Haley is already campaigning in Michigan, despite having just lost the South Carolina Republican primary to Donald Trump. Haley is due in 7 places over the next week and a half, ahead of Super Tuesday, March the 5th, in which 16 US states and territories will be holding primary elections. Now, back in South Carolina, Nikki Haley still retains some support. Final results show she got nearly 40% of voters' support, even though Donald Trump got as much as 60%.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadier in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
These songs. All right. Let's get to You Choose the News, Bill.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time for everybody's favorite, at least as far as we know, fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. We have scoured the interwebs, well, all weekend, had a long weekend, to find really stupid stories about us humans to play this fake radio news game because the people in charge don't wake up for about another 8 minutes. So we are on a clock. Alrighty, sir, here we go. And Blake Olson is joining us, of course, from the newsroom as well. You gentlemen, your choices are headline number 1, hobby store steps in to fight crime. Headline number 2, a misunderstanding about the process. Headline number 3, follow your dreams all the way to the poop. And headline number 4, an obvious government solution. Okay, Jeff, choose carefully.
Let's go hobby store.
Yes, hobby store stepping into fight crime. We are traveling to England for this one, specifically the country of Wales. Lewis Gray was recently shopping with his son to buy spray paint at a hobby store called Hobbycraft in order to spray paint his son's bicycle helmet to make it look more like his favorite mountain bike rider. But the store said, "I'm sorry, sir, we are not going to sell you this paint because your skin is the wrong color and you may want to be doing the crimes." Lewis Gray happened to be a black man, and his son was also black. The hobby store said they've instituted a policy of checking on what everybody is using spray paint for. It's called their Challenge 25 policy, and they ask for ID for anybody under the age of 25, which is interesting because Mr. Gray is 36, not 35. But they refused to sell him the paint until his grandfather, who happened to be white, showed up and paid for the paint. So they were more than happy. If there's a white guy buying the paint, the black guy can't buy the paint. I know. That's great. Luckily, though, in England, not here, so we're not making an aspersion about America. All righty. Second choice, Jeff, misunderstanding about the process. Follow your dreams all the way to the poop, or an obvious government solution.
Let's follow your dreams.
Yes, follow your dreams all the way to the poop. You know, when you were a kid, being a zookeeper seems like a magical job. And some of those people grew up, chased their dreams, and now they find themselves elbow deep in elephant poop. That's what happened to people that followed their dreams at the Blackpool Zoo. They have 3 female Asian elephants. Now, they're wondering if one of the Asian elephants may be preggers. But how do you test? It's awkward. So mostly you can see by hormones in their poop. So what they're doing is they are feeding edible glitter to the elephants. Each one gets a different shade of edible glitter, and then they go back and check the poop later, and then they send it off to samples to figure out and test it to see if they're pregnant, because nobody has the kind of time to follow an elephant around all day and watch it poop. But again, if they want to pay for it, I would be interested. I guess, it has to be pretty easy. So, but that's it. Yes, the people that wanted to be zookeepers are now elbow deep in elephant poop looking for glitter. Yes, that's great. Okay, Blake, you have the final choice this morning, sir. Choose wisely. A misunderstanding about the process or an obvious government solution?
An obvious government solution for 2,000.
Yes. In fact, it's not for 2,000. It's for 125,000. We are traveling to Radnor Township in the lovely state of Pennsylvania. Radnor Township has a low bridge. And between 2008 and 2021, the bridge has been smacked more than 100 times by gentlemen driving trucks that don't know how tall their trucks are. Seems like a male problem about how big things are, but that's a side note.
We always think it's bigger than
always. We always do. And so the solution is the town of Radnor recently spent $125,000 to erect a bridge early warning system. It is a lamppost that arcs over the road. It then has two chains that hang down, and they placed a bright yellow beam that is steel there hanging from the chains.
Garage.
Yep. And then they put some bright yellow blinky lights on the side. And whoever did that charged the city $125,000.
Wow.
Now, you and I could have done that for like $600 at Home Depot. And then party at Vegas. I mean, I'm just saying
sounds like a good price. That sounds like a discount for what the government might pay for that.
It does, but isn't it? What a surprise that the government spends $125,000 on a lamppost, some chains, and a steel beam. That is it. That is the end of You Choose the News today. As always, Jeff and Blake are our winners, and I am a giant loser. Back to you, sir.
Erin Lee is up. Erin Lee's up in the 7 o'clock hour. She's working to stop this radical gender ideology in the state of Colorado. You're not going to want to miss it. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. high time in the Mile High City. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show on this Monday, February 26th. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for getting up and going out there and making this world a better place. I know many of you all just waking up, getting the kids out the door, getting to work. You are the producers in this world, not just the takers. And we thank you for it. The taxpayers. That's right. We love you here.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's get to Blake with the news. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Billy. 45, sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 60s today. Red flag warning for nearly the entire Front Range. Fire danger high with dry and windy conditions today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the Air Force Academy is closed to the public today as crews battle fires in the area. Flames sparked Sunday on the south end of the academy. The fire is up to 150 acres. Smoke seen for miles. No homes in danger yet. 2 people shot and killed by a construction site manager in Denver after they attacked him during an alleged burglary. One man died at the scene, the other at the hospital. The site manager is cooperating with investigators. Former President Trump wins South Carolina. Nikki Haley is still hanging around.
They have the right to a real choice. Not a Soviet-style election with only one candidate.
Former President Trump focusing on President Biden.
And we're going to be up here on November 5th, and we're going to look at Joe Biden, and we're going to look him right in the eye. He's destroying our country, and we're going to say, Joe, you're fired. Get out. Get out, Joe. You're fired.
Israel's leader, Benjamin Netanyahu, discussing negotiations with Hamas over the weekend.
Appearing on CBS Face the Nation, the Israeli leader said the two are still far apart on negotiations for a potential 6-week ceasefire that could involve the exchange of about 40 hostages for Palestinian prisoners. Netanyahu said Hamas needs to abandon its crazy demands to get back in the ballpark in negotiations. I'm Mark Mayfield.
An active duty U.S. Air Force service member set himself on fire on Sunday outside the Israeli embassy in D.C., and he is dead. He was protesting what he said was genocide by Israel. Well, today we celebrate the greatest snack ever.
Today is National Pistachio Day, and most of the world's supply is grown in California. 523,000 tons last year sent to the global market. It's known as the happy nut in China, the smiling nut in Iran. Turn one on its side and you can see why. And it's been celebrated as a symbol of health, happiness, and good fortune for the past 9,000 years. I'm Bree Tennis.
And on this show, our happy nut is Billy Thorpe. Nuggets over the Warriors, 119-103. Nikola Jokic, 18th double-double of the season, 32, 16, and 16. The Avs play host to the Dallas Stars tomorrow. Number 24, CSU, plays host to Nevada. They have lost 3 of their last 4. It's 40 in Lafayette, 41 in Parker, 45 in Denver. Jeff and Bill underway. Stay tuned. They continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Title of the song, The Sound of Sunshine, which you got for now. Tomorrow you won't.
Yeah, Michael Ferranti. Now, when he comes and does Red Rocks, he actually hosts yoga earlier in the day.
Really?
Yeah. He is one of the best interviews in radio.
I've literally never even heard of his name
Michael
before.
Ferranti in Spirit, nearly. Kind of a reggae influence. It's really, really good dude. And just Phenomenal.
Bring them on the show, Bill.
Incredible.
All these
I'll
friends
see.
you have.
I'll make some phone calls. I'll see.
These
Next time he's coming through.
yoga classes you've attended with the stars.
No, I don't do that. No. I've chatted with him a couple of times. He's just a great guy. He is a really, really good interview. Yeah, we'll have to see. I'll make some phone calls when he's coming around.
That's great. Joining us on the VIP line is Erin Lee. Erin Lee's the founder of Stop Gender Ideology. She's also the star of the movie Art Club Movie. If you go to artclubmovie.com, you can watch the story of her life. She had a daughter that went to just an art club meeting. Just a traditional art club meeting, and then came back saying that she was ready to transition from a girl to a boy. And Erin Lee, who was not a rock-ribbed conservative, was sitting there going, wait, what just happened to my daughter? And this has now taken her on a journey to become one of the most vocal voices in the state of Colorado for parental rights, particularly as it has to deal with what's being taught in our schools. She's also leading the effort on a whole series of ballot initiatives here in the state of Colorado that are going to protect parental rights, stop boys from participating in girls' sports, and end the transing of kids surgically prior to the age of 18. Erin, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill show. Good morning.
Hey, Jeff and Bill. I'm happy to be here.
So tell us a little bit about where you are in the process with these 3 ballot initiatives that you've been helping spearhead here in the state of Colorado.
Yes, so a broad coalition of us founded Protect Kids Colorado. We can be found at protectkidscolorado.org. And we actually started the process January 3rd. We presented a comprehensive Parental Rights Act and that initiative to keep boys out of girls' sports. And as we found out the hard way, the title board, which is the authoritative body that determines whether or not you can get a title to then move to signature phase to potentially get it on the ballot, we've learned the hard way that they're not doing their job. They are a ministerial board, purely just there to determine if initiatives are a single subject. But what they've done is demonstrate extreme political bias. They are going far beyond the limitations of their job and calling our initiatives anti-trans. They said that the word parent is so broad and so unclear that they can't set a title. The voting public of Colorado does not understand what a parent is. And so every first and third Wednesday, we continue to go before this title board, and they continue to either shut us down, or there's a lawyer who's paid by Polis, the CEA, One Colorado, to come in and challenge the decisions of the title board if we are given title. And they've successfully overturned 7 out of 8 of our initiatives.
Wow, 7 out of 8 efforts. What was the one that got through?
So we did get one last Wednesday. It's parents' right to be notified of gender incongruence. So just like what happened with my daughter, if our child has been convinced by adults in most cases or by social influence, but if they're identifying as the opposite sex, schools will now have 48 hours to notify the parents that this is happening if we are successful in getting signatures and getting it on the ballot.
Why do you think that got through?
I think they threw us a bone. I mean, we've continued to refine the language as we found the hard way. Really, the first things we presented should have been given title, and we should have been ready to gather signatures by the beginning of February. But what we've done is kind of chop up our initiatives and even submit them sentence by sentence. Our motto is if they want to be ridiculous, we can be ridiculous too, and we can be relentless. So we keep filing these initiatives sentence by sentence, and they're so clear and so incredibly single subject. I think they had no choice but to give us this one. And we do have another 8 filed behind it. So we are not giving up.
Wow, way to go. I mean, it makes sense if you're on the other side, right? So One Colorado would have to spend millions of dollars in the ballot fight if this got onto the ballot for November. So it's much easier to pay an attorney to go down there and just throw everything they can to try to stop this at the title board level. But I think it's frustrating for Coloradans to hear that something that should be neutral, right? Like this should be, this is not a quasi legislative body. These aren't elected officials. This is a title board that's meant to just make sure that the basic rules are followed when it comes to these ballot initiatives. And instead, they're bringing all of their own ideologies into this and trying to prevent Coloradans from freely putting something on the ballot that they would like to have.
That's right. And Coloradans overwhelmingly disagree with the things we're advocating for. They disagree with parents being left in the dark, with parents not being able to access all education and records and materials used in the classroom, with parents not being able to consent to mental and medical health care, and with boys participating in girls' sports. I mean, that is such a winning issue. People don't agree with that. And you're right, this board is not an elected board, but they are representatives of the Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold, the Attorney
She's very
General, Phil
neutral.
Weiser, right? And they're showing their bias. And I don't think most Coloradans even understand this process exists. I didn't prior to this year. In Article 5, Section 2 of the Colorado Constitution, before we even established the legislature, the very first power of the people is this right to create law through the initiative process. And the people's process is being stifled and trampled on, as we've experienced.
So Erin Lee sounds like she's a high-powered Harvard law attorney in her grasp of the Constitution, but you're a mom. You were pulled into all of this because of what your daughter went through. Tell us a little bit of the story of your daughter. And this was made into a documentary at artclubmovie.com. You can watch it there, but give us a little bit of your background, because you're not a conservative activist in the traditional sense. You 5 years ago were just trying to raise your kids.
Right. Well, 3 years ago, I would have described myself as a kind of a sleepwalking parent, blindly trusting the public education system, and a lazy Christian. I was not civically engaged. I had never paid attention to even my school board. I couldn't have told you their names. And then this thing happened to our daughter. And our first priority was to work her through the confusion that had been pushed on her. And that took about 9 months to really rescue her from the dark cloud of transgenderism. But it was a regular Tuesday in May of 2021, and she went to art club, and the teacher had brought in outside activists that, taught her that her normal 12-year-old discomfort in her body means she's transgender, that her, lack of knowledge of who she was sexually attracted to means she's queer. They talked about polyamory, suicide, gave out a personal cell phone number, gave the kids toys, told them their parents aren't safe. Don't tell your parents about this meeting. In fact, the rule of art club was what you hear in here, keep in here. And, when we went public about a year after this incident, there were so many families that came forward, even families in that art club. There was four little girls. All of them went through the same confusion. All of them became suicidal around the same time. In December of 2021, my daughter wrote us a suicide note because she had become so confused and depressed by this label that they put on her that didn't fit. And it just goes to show, when all these families came forward, that this is a very prevalent issue, that my family story is no longer the exception, it's the norm. It's just that most families are not in a position to talk about it like I am, because they're still trying to rescue their children from it.
Now, Erin, thanks for the story. What was the justification the school and or the teacher supervisor did from the art club as to the justification for bringing in these activists? How does this be under the purview of an art club activity? What did they say?
They doubled down on everything that happened. It's like they were proud of it. They praised the teacher. They promoted the art teacher. Since this has happened, they call these confidential clubs. They have a rule in the Poudre School District where I am that you cannot opt your children in or out of clubs in the district. They call this a safe space for kids to explore their sexuality and gender identity without, the harm of parents. It's like all parents are evil until proven innocent. And the school district has assumed this position that they are, charged with the care of our children. They've really taken in loco parentis to a new extreme.
Now, Erin, how does this fit under art club? That's the part that I'm having a difficulty figuring out the justification from the school district. I could understand if they have an LGBTQ or a pride club. That seems to be okay, as far as if you want to bring in some activists and have the conversations, that I think would be covered by the umbrella. But if I bring activists just like these that were brought into your daughter's art club, it doesn't seem to fit. Just like I wouldn't be able to bring them into wrestling club, just like I wouldn't bring them into the Harry Potter club, just like I wouldn't bring them into the Dungeons and Dragons club. I wouldn't bring them into the Hispanic club. I think that by the self-definition of this being an art club, I think it just, for me, it would exclude discussions of sexuality. based on what the club is. What did the school district tell you about that?
Yeah, well, the art teacher approached my daughter and asked her to stay after school for GSA art club. And my daughter did not know what GSA meant. And so she truly thought she was going to an art club.
Yeah.
And so that's what they were calling it at the time, a GSA art club.
What
Although
does GSA stand
no
for?
art was done. Gender and sexuality awareness.
Now, when and where was that label inside the school district? And this is what I'm looking at is what I'm trying to peel back the onion is I want to find out the layers in which the school district went to conceal what was going on at the art club and why they are giving their blessing. Because again, if you and I start an art club and then we bring in somebody else outside of this, let's say that you brought in someone that the art club brought in someone that was super, super conservative and talked about how you have to vote and you got to tell your parents to vote, they would lose their mind. So I'm trying to figure out the justification. So if now it is a gender art club, where was that outlined inside of either the school, the curriculum, or the district that's the name and the purpose of the club? I'm just, again, trying to peel back the onion.
Nowhere.
Okay,
That was not listed anywhere. They didn't tell my daughter. They didn't tell me.
Yeah.
It was not available online. It was not available in the school.
Yeah.
It was purely a secret, confidential GSA club.
Yeah,
labeled as an art
that
club.
is completely ridiculous.
Yeah, we were deceived. Our daughter was deceived. I mean, I think that's the thing I have the hardest time reconciling is that she truly thought she was going to an art club invited by her art teacher in the art room. And she was a shy, quirky kid at the height of COVID protocol, just longing to make connection. And she loved art.
Now,
So
let me
she
give
was
you.
deceived.
And that's what we're talking. Oh, sorry.
We're talking with Erin Lee, the founder of Stop Gender Ideology. Go ahead, Bill.
Now, what I was looking at is let's take this example of what's happening in schools to what can happen in the real world. People may or may not like this example, but I'm going to throw Scientology on the table right now. And Scientology, one of their recruitment techniques is to wander up to you and ask you to take a personality test. The personality test is about 200 questions, takes a couple of hours. And then what they do is they use that information they gain to try to get you to come back and spend money and join the church.
Did you take it?
No, but I have friends that did. So I know what I know.
Love to know what the
process.
results were of your personality,
Yeah.
Bill.
Oh God, no, we don't. That definitely would not be for sharing. The issue is that they're using it as a pretext.
Yeah.
The idea of, hey, don't you want to find out about this personality test? They're using it as a pretext to then open up the door to talk to you about Scientology. And that is exactly the tactic that I see here. They're using the art club as a pretext to talk about gender identity. And in both situations, not cool.
Exactly right. Except in this case, not like your analogy, these are 11, 12, and 13-year-old girls.
Yeah.
These are
That is
the
different.
most vulnerable population, and they know that. These girls are starting puberty. Of course, they're uncomfortable in their body, and they're taking
Yes.
advantage of them and their vulnerability.
We're talking with Erin Lee, the founder of Stop Gender Ideology. She's not only the star of the hit documentary Art Club Movie. You can watch it at artclubmovie.com, artclubmovie.com. She's also helping spearhead an effort to bring a series of ballot initiatives in the state of Colorado that include protecting women from men coming into their sports programs, and parental notification when it comes to transgenderism and their children choosing to announce that at school, making sure that those parents are notified, and then ending surgeries for kids under the age of 18 on transgender surgeries. So, Erin, let's talk a little bit about the sports side of this. This has been one of the most fascinating things for me to watch because I'm not sure what happened to the feminists in this conversation where I go, wait, I remember the fight for Title IX, for women's sports in colleges, equal funding for all of this. And then all of a sudden dudes are showing up and just destroying these girls' records. And I've seen videos where they just slam them down playing basketball, destroy them in these sports. And I don't hear much from the feminists on this. What is going on here?
Feminists and the dads. Where are the dads of daughters standing up to protect their girls? So the ballot initiative that we're running, the two proponents are actually registered Democrats, and both of them are members of Gays Against Groomers. So when I say we're a broad coalition, I mean it. One of the proponents is a lesbian who has two daughters, 11 and 13 years old, who are athletes. She's a softball coach. And so when I say this is an issue that, everyone can get behind, I truly mean that. I think people are afraid to talk about it. I've experienced death threats. I've been called a murderer and a terrorist for my stance on these issues. So people are afraid to be labeled hateful and a bigot. But when you put a bubble in front of them on the ballot, overwhelmingly people are going to circle that they don't agree with this issue. And so that's why we're trying to bring it to the people through ballot initiatives. That though they may be afraid to talk about it out loud, they're not going to be afraid to vote their values in private.
What's the response you're getting from the title board on the bans on trans surgery for minors under the age of 18?
That issue has actually not been heard before the title board yet. That will be heard at the next meeting. Yep, that issue is a little bit behind. So on March 6th, Wednesday, March 6th at 9 a.m., it's actually other proponents who are bringing that forward. They will be heard before the title board. But, if they've shut down girls' sports and they've shut down transparency in education, we can glean that they will certainly shut down banning gender mutilation for children.
How do people get involved with the work you're doing on these ballot initiatives?
Yeah, so we formed Protect Kids Colorado. We're at protectkidscolorado.org. And we encourage people to sign up for updates, to sign up to volunteer. The other side is well funded. I won't pretend that, One Colorado and Polis and CEA don't have millions to throw at this issue, but we have strength in numbers. And so we're just asking for volunteers once we get to petition phase, hopefully within the next month, to carry a petition, get 5 signatures, get 10, 20 signatures. If we all work together, we can absolutely get this on the ballot without billions of dollars behind us.
That's a key component. Do not miss this. Just getting it through the title board is step one. In fact, that should be a very easy step in a sane, normal world. Where the title board was actually neutral, this would have already been done. The big challenge is getting all the signatures. And how many signatures do you have to gather? Where do you have to gather them from? What's the process there?
Yeah, so we're pushing statutory initiatives, which means we're not making a change to the Constitution. So we only need to get 50% of the vote. It doesn't matter where those signatures come from in Colorado. And the number we have to have is 125,000. But this legislature, who is so terrified of the citizens process, voted to eliminate the curing period, meaning they will invalidate some of our signatures and we have to account for that. There's no time to get them back. So we're aiming for 250,000 signatures per initiative, so per issue.
Wow. And this is this going to be volunteer led, or are you going to have people paid gathering signatures?
Hopefully volunteer led. We're really lucky. We got the Archdiocese behind us. Again, we've got the Radical Feminists, Gays Against Groomers. A lot of churches are stepping up to help us carry petitions. And I urge people to go watch our movie, Art Club, at artclubmovie.com. It's free. It's on YouTube and Rumble. That's really where it all starts, is educating people on these issues. And so we've had a lot of churches who've shown the film and have stepped up to help us gather signatures.
Erin Lee, founder of Stop Gender Ideology. A few final questions. What would you say to parents of teenagers right now? What's your advice to them?
My biggest advice is don't put your kids in public school. We learned that the hard way. We're lucky in Colorado to have great charters, classical charter schools and private options and homeschool co-ops. Check.org was founded here, actually by my filmmaker, Senator Lundberg. And so don't put your kids in this system that is taking bites out of them piece by piece through pronoun conversation and math problems and social contagion. But I also caution parents of all age kids, teach your kids, safe adults don't ask you to keep secrets. They shouldn't ask you to label yourself, and that you are perfectly and wonderfully made by God. You can't change your sex. And, this ideology is coming at them from every angle, and we've got to inoculate our kids from gender ideology.
I remember being a teenager and the girls my age at that point, dealing with a whole host of complicated issues, right? Bulimia, anorexia, self-body image, being insecure, dealing with boys for the first time, all the challenges that come with not only being a teenage girl, but being a teenage boy as well. And then the trans issue wasn't even on the table. It wasn't even a thing to be considered with. Abigail Schreier has kind of written about this notion of a social contagion epidemic taking place around this. Do you think that this ideology is feeding into that insecurity that teenage boys and girls have at that age, and providing them this idea of this is because you're trans, go down this pathway? And then, some of the results you're seeing later in life is that this was a big mistake for them.
1,000,000%. And you brought up a great book, Irreversible Damage by Abigail Schreier. I urge everyone to read that book. It gives such a great layout of how we got here. But that's a great analogy, Jeff. This is akin to me to telling an anorexic girl to throw up, or a bulimic girl to throw up, or telling an anorexic girl, oh, you feel like you're fat? Maybe you should just stop eating. That's what we're doing with these kids going through gender confusion. Oh, you think you're a boy? Yeah, you're a boy. You should just go along with that. In fact, Colorado passed a law in 2019, 1129, that banned conversion therapy. It made it illegal for a licensed therapist to do anything other than affirm gender confused youth. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're feeding a mental disorder.
I remember we fought against that bill. The Centennial Insitute fought against that bill down there. And what they were doing was arguing that like there was this horrific conversion therapy that was taking place where people were like forced to watch pornography and electrocuted, put into ice baths, beaten with Bibles. And I remember turning to One Colorado at one point and being like, hey, if that's what you want to ban, we're all for it. Like, we'll join you. But if you read this law, what you have forced counselors in the state of Colorado to do is if somebody comes in to the practice, a 13, 14, 15-year-old person, and says, I'm struggling with gender dysphoria, by law, all you can do now is encourage them to embrace transition. You cannot go, well, hold on a second. Let's walk through this and ask them, are you dealing with stuff at home? Are you confused about this stuff? No. You can only counsel them in one direction, and that is to embrace transition, which I think is going to create a lot of long-term consequences. Erin Lee, founder of Stop Gender Ideology, star of the movie Art Club Movie. You can watch it at artclubmovie.com. Erin, thanks so much for being on the program. We're going to continue to monitor these ballot initiatives. Will you call us and give us updates throughout the title board process?
Absolutely. And prepare for success. Like I said, we're relentless, and we will have petitions in hand come April.
There you go. Erin Lee, thanks so much. Friends, I'd love to hear from you all as to what you thought of that conversation. Do you think it's right for parents to be able to push back on this? Demand parental notification if their child comes out as trans at school? Ban trans surgery for minors under the age of 18 and prevent men from competing in women's sports? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Text message here. This woman's courageous. The state of Colorado is lucky to have her. All right. Imagine effortlessly gliding open your cabinets and drawers to reveal neatly arranged shelves that showcase your belongings. With roll them out shelves, you'll easily access your pots, pans, and other essentials, eliminating chaos and increasing speed and functionality in your home. Roll them out shelves understands that every home storage needs are unique. Whether you're dealing with tight corners or expansive cabinets, your shelves will be custom built to maximize every inch of available space. Joyce and Brent Tolliver, the mom and son dynamic duo, leave satisfied customers wherever they go, and their all 5-star reviews confirm this. Here's what some overjoyed customers have been saying. Joyce replied to my initial email and scheduled the estimate quickly. Installation was quick and clean. The shelves are very sturdy and made better than most I've seen. We're very, very happy customers. I'd put this off for so long thinking it was going to be so much more expensive. It wasn't life-changing. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601, or rollemoutshelves.com. Tell them Jeff sent you, 303-475-9601, or rollemoutshelves.com. We'll get to your calls and more. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
It's Monday morning. This is a good song. Long View by Green Day.
This is a good one.
65, warm today, but windy. Tomorrow, 43 and snow. It's going to be cold. So get your work in today. That's how I feel as a rancher. You got to get it all in because you don't want to be walking around outside when it's snowing.
I got to decide if I want to wash the car this afternoon. Probably going to put it off. I'll wait until Thursday.
Yeah, because it's so. The day after it snows in Colorado, it's just
a mess. So, but the car needs a bath. So
we live on a dirt road, which means our cars are always dirty.
Always, yes.
Always.
That's a way to avoid a chore. I admire you, sir. if I could get a dirt road in front of my house, I would too. Say, sorry, honey, can't wash the car.
My wife is like that Greek mythology Atlas, pushing the.
Oh yeah.
Is it Atlas that pushes the rock up?
Sisyphus.
Yeah,
Sisyphus.
Atlas has got the world.
Yeah, he holds the world on his shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife she loves to have the clean car, but she drives it home and gets dirty then and there. Getting to your text messages, what did you think of Erin Lee? We just in the past segment hosted her. She's a founder of Stop Gender Ideology. She's working on at least 3 ballot initiatives, maybe more. One that would require parental notification. If your child comes out at school as trans, the school must notify you within 48 hours. They cannot keep that secret from you. So 48-hour notification. Secondly, a ban on transition surgery for minors under the age of 18. And then third, keeping men out of women's sports, women out of men's sports, that type of ban. Do you agree with it? Do you think this would fly in Colorado? Here's another question. Do you think that would be successful in a state like Colorado? Or are they just pushing a rock uphill?
This is an interesting question. Yeah, this is an interesting one because I can see, and I agree with Erin that the school absolutely and completely overstepped its bounds.
Yeah,
I am on board with, in many cases, the idea of the prevention of women competing in men's sports, as long as there is a physical element. If it's not a physical element, don't care. If we're talking
chess, for instance,
chess, spelling bee, stuff like that, don't care.
Right.
Don't care.
I don't know anybody that cares about that.
And so that's the issue. And I am behind her on the idea of preventing the transitional surgery because that is something that can't go back. And the idea of making any sort of a surgery, and I'm talking even plastic surgery that is not cosmetic, like cleft palate, things like that. If it's not that kind of a change, I have a real problem. If someone's unhappy with something else about their body prior to 18, and it is, not that type of at least medically justified, I got an issue with that.
Yeah.
I don't think that we should be making those changes. But I would diverge with her probably when we get into adulthood, because once we get into adulthood, I don't see the harm of having an individual be transgendered. I don't think there's a harm based on society or anything else. And I think that's where we have the difficulties. But I side with her. I think that the school district absolutely was duplicitous in how they set up that group, and the fact that they would not publicly announce that name, and the idea that you have to provide cover. And this is what I would challenge anybody who was really, really pro on the LGBTQ side. If that's true, then why can't you announce it in public and have these classes or clubs in school?
Right.
If it really is the goal, you shouldn't have to sneak under the tent in the art club. You should be able to proudly display what it is and let people make the choice. That's I'm okay with. I disagree with using the art club, the D&D club, the chess club, the home ec club as a vehicle for you to talk to these people. You do it where you should.
And you would disagree if the chess club all of a sudden brought in Catholic priests to tell people about Jesus?
Absolutely. Anything outside of chess. No, nope, don't do it. And if you want to, you can have that as a separate activity.
Yeah.
But I'm signing up to do chess. And as a kid, and I understand the anger, and I really understand the confusion that was going through Erin's daughter, because she's in this space, and then the people that she trusts are telling her that, well, these feelings mean X, Y, and Z, and they may or may not. And the fact they were telling her not to explore these, especially with her parents, it's awful. It is an awful, awful thing. But I think we may diverge when we get into adulthood. Yeah, I think she and I may have some difference of opinions because we've talked about it before. Oh gosh, do we even go that far? That as a rule, sex is biological, but gender is a social construct. And I think that when we get into adulthood, there needs to be a little more deference into individuals' choices, as long as there's no personal harm. So
I don't disagree with you with more deference once people get into adulthood. I do think gender is tied directly to sex, but
explain that to me. Explain that to me. How's gender tied to sex?
Because I think biology has a big influence over people's gender.
Sure, but could we have multiple genders? Could we have a society that had? Yeah, we could. Sure, we could.
No.
Okay.
Because this like idea of spectrum, right? With like unlimited amount of genders, Zer.
Yeah.
That it doesn't make any sense.
Sure it does. Yeah. The problem is you're just applying it to Earth. That's the issue. You need to. You need to
apply it to Earth,
and that's the problem, because that's where the concept fails. Is because to adequately understand and converse about this, the best way to do it is inside of science fiction, because it's antiseptic. Because that way we can actually talk about the difference between sex and gender in a sociological perspective. We can't here on Earth because we have predetermined biases and conclusions. So if you put it into no, not reality. If you put it into science fiction,
there's no such thing as a they.
Here's the okay.
There's no such thing as a they.
Easy example. Easiest example.
Okay.
And this is in the sci-fi realm. This is the easiest example. We leave Earth and we run into a civilization, galaxies and galaxies away. They are a very warlike people. They look like giant space rhinos. They're huge, 4 times the size of us, and it is a warlike culture in which their entire society is built on expansion. That's what they do. We come in, and after conversing with them, and we spend some time, a couple of months, we're wondering where are all the women? Because it's all these guys, and we're like, well, how do we reproduce, etc. We come to find out they're space rhinos. Physiologically, they're exactly the same, male and female, with the exception of their gender organs. That's it. There's no difference in terms of strength, size, ability on either sex. They have one gender, soldier. That is their culture. They have a single soldier. They have a single gender, soldier, 2 sexes, male and female. That's their culture. That's their species. That's their world. 2 sexes, 1 gender. That's why it has to be done in science fiction. We could do it again and go to it. We could do it again. No, but
I love you, Bill.
No, but
I don't know how that
no,
makes
but hang on a
sense.
second. No, but that makes any. Yes, it does. They have one gender in their society. Their gender is soldier. Everybody dresses that way based on their rank as soldier. Doesn't matter if you're a male or a female soldier. If you're a private, you dress this way. If you're a colonel, you dress this way. You have these responsibilities regardless of the gender you're born with. Society has determined the gender. Their gender is soldier. I can give more examples from there. We even have one that was a TV show in the 1990s that explored the idea of transgenderism. That was a sci-fi show, but
Bill,
that gets even more difficult.
Text message 6994. You got to stop smoking pot.
No, here's the thing.
Fantasies are over
Here's
the
thing.
top.
That's fine. Here's the thing. I understand, but what I noticed in that text message is a personal attack and insulting my conclusion intelligence. You know what you didn't do? You didn't tell me I was wrong. Didn't explain why I was wrong. Nor did you bother to pick up that phone and call and have the discussion.
So the issue is this. The call.
Yeah, if that phone is open, you think I'm wrong? I got 2 words for you. Prove it.
303-696-1971. God created 2 sexes, male and female. He is not the author of confusion.
That's sex, not gender. But thanks, Texter. Next time, maybe on the subject.
Hey, Billy, follow the science. It's settled. There are women and there are men.
Yes, and that's what I said. 2 genders. The 2 sexes. Gender is a social construct. We have 2 sexes, women and men. I agree with you. That's what I said. That was in my example where we went and saw the space rhinos. Still my example. 2 sexes. I never disputed male and female.
I've never had a response to my position be, let's go visit the space rhino.
I know, but the issue is this. As funny as you find it, it's an antiseptic example. And the example holds true of 2 sexes and 1 gender based on a different society.
Help me with that one. There's no they.
Soldier. That is in this example, and that's the issue. And this is the issue. The issue is biologically, we still have 2 sexes. But in their society, they have decided gender is singular. Who are we to tell them they can't do that in their society? They are thousands of miles away on a different planet. That's not our job. We can decide here whatever genders we have. They're allowed to assign their own gender. And if it is singular, it's singular. That's it.
All right. There you go. What do you think of Bill? Jeff, stop him before he goes.
Again,
Bill, you lost me on this one.
Everything is about sex. Call in because sex and gender are different. I understand all the insults that I'm getting here on the text messages. Oddly enough, none of y'all have dealt with the principled argument I am making, nor have you called the phone. That tells me exactly how good your arguments are.
All right, give us a call, 303. Text messages are amazing on this one.
Yep.
What planet are you from, Bill? Leave it to Bill to use a hypothetical situation that contradicts settled science.
It's not settled
Humans
science.
have been on the planet for 70,000 years. It never changed.
I never disputed the scientific fact that we have two sexes. Pay attention. If I have to, I will talk slowly
give
for
us
you.
a call, please. I'd love to have this debate. Somebody help come to my side against the space rhinos. 303-696-1971. Guys, for those of you with a full head of hair, congratulations. Studies show that one of the most attractive physical features is a full head of hair. Want to know the least attractive and most aging? Well, it's hair loss. No amount of car, house, or success can make up for that. Keep going back to the space rhinos, man. I have never heard that response. All right. No amount of car, house, and success can make up for that thinning or balding, as it leaves the greatest lasting physical impression. It doesn't have to be that way. Advanced Hair has the quick one-day solution to your hair loss. I'm really gathering myself here because my mind won't leave that. You literally put a worm in my head, and I'm not going to get rid of it. It's the same treatment that worked for me. No more expensive pills or special shampoos, just your very own natural hair guaranteed to grow. And with Advanced Hair, your new hair can grow for life. Advanced Hair has improved tens of thousands of lives, including top radio personalities across the country. Did I mention your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day? And for your free consultation, call 720-459-HAIR. And if you qualify, get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. AdvancedHair.com. Give them a call. All right, we'll take your calls and text messages. They're good ones. 303-696-1971. Mark, we'll get to you in just a second, and we'll get to these text messages. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Good morning to you all out there. 7:52 in the Mile High City on this Monday, February 26th. A warm day today, 65 degrees. Windy, though. Tomorrow it gets snowy and cold. So enjoy. It's that false spring that we get here in Colorado. A whole lot of text messages after that last conversation. Some think you're very smart, Bill. You are so smart.
Okay, Mom and my brother will
You
call you
are
later.
so smart.
I will talk to each one of you later. Thank you very much. It's the only ones that agree with me.
Other ones, until we actually meet the so-called space people or actually have a need for a soldier gender, then there will be any laws or changes against human fantasy world. Billy, as for somebody who comes across as so intelligent, sometimes you can jump the track.
Well, the issue is my construct in this argument is sci-fi, because sci-fi has been a social commentary for decades, since its inception. And the reason it's been able to be a social commentary is for exactly what I did, taking it outside of the human experience. That's what they did. It makes the conversation much more difficult. And again, I will notice nobody on that list explains why I'm wrong. They insult intelligence and other things. No one says why I'm wrong.
Let's get to Mark in Inglewood, line 1. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Mark.
Morning.
Way to think outside the box, Bill.
Thanks. Thank you.
Outside the universe.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, outside the universe works too. But truly, he hit the nail on the head. You have two different sexes. You just have one gender. They are the soldier gender. Something like it happened in Great Britain a long time ago with a lady named Boudica. She was a warrior. The people looked up to her and treated her the same as a male. The gender didn't matter, or the sex didn't matter. I think it's very interesting. You're outside the box, and the people that don't like it want to stay in the box.
Mark, was this British soldier a male or a female?
Her name was Boudica.
Yeah.
She was female.
She was female. Right. So she was female.
But she had the same rights, and rights for females were not a big thing back then. And she had the same rights as the male warriors. In fact, she was in charge of them.
So she had the same rights, but she was still a woman.
She was, but
so
her
there are two
her
sexes,
sex didn't
right?
matter. She was looked at as a warrior.
Okay, I don't.
Didn't matter that she was male or female.
All right. Mark, I appreciate the call. Mark from Inglewood. Mark's line is open 303-696-1971. We are now in the realm of made-up space rhinos and former warriors in Britain. Brandon, let's go to you. Line 2. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Okay. The truth is, Bill's on point. Bill's right. Here we go. Sex and gender. Sex, male and female. Everyone who knows that, everyone who's saying something, we're talking about sex. But as far as gender, how about this? Hunter, gatherer. That's two different genders. Depends. Okay. Baby maker, wood chopper, fisherman. Okay. Cook. These things can be classified as gender. Now there's a huge overlap. The struggle is there's a huge overlap between biological sex and social gender. And socially, we can make the gender whatever we want. There's a high overlap, so people just kind of blend the two. But Bill's right, gender is whatever society says it is. And
all right, Brandon,
sex is
appreciate the
male and
call. Thanks so much.
I'm going to do
All
my
right.
little happy dance.
There you go. Up next, Dr. David Murphy on how the Biden
Brandon.
doctrine sets the Middle East aflame. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
More fire ahead. News Talk 710 KNUS.
And this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier. Here are the top stories we're following. Former President Donald Trump said black voters are more drawn to him because of his criminal indictments. Speaking to a black conservative group in South Carolina, Trump likened his criminal charges to the discrimination faced by black Americans and said that they have come to embrace his mugshot. The NAACP blasted the former president's comments, saying he wrongly tied his situation to the debate over systemic racial bias in the U.S. criminal justice system. Thailand and the United States are staging military drills with 30 different countries aimed at enhancing relations between participating nations. That includes China, in a sign of efforts to ease tension between Beijing and Washington. Patrick Falk reports.
Well, the Cobra Gold exercises are one of the largest combined military exercises in the Indo-Pacific region, involving more than 10,000 troops from several Southeast Asian nations, as well as South Korea, Japan, and the US. And they're going to be conducting live fire as well as cyber warfare exercises, among other drills. China won't be participating in the combat drills, but will be involved in joint civic missions along with India. And it comes about after National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Bangkok last month.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadier in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
I think someone go up the slap in the face. Less conversation.
It's 8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Monday, February 26th. If you missed the last conversation, that's one for the record books.
Yeah.
We hosted Erin Lee in the last hour to get into this kind of gender ideology that's taking place in schools, and we ended up with Viking barbarian queens and rhino space people. So congratulations. That was one where I wasn't even sure how to respond.
Excellent.
I think you found a weakness in my ability to take on these issues, just launch into possible universes. We're going to get to David Murphy here in just a second. He's a faculty fellow at the Centennial Insitute and has a new column up on the Biden doctrine setting the Middle East aflame in Town Hall. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. Let's get with Blake Olson with the news. Good morning, Blake.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jeff. 48 and sunny in Denver under a red flag warning once again until 3 o'clock. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up, and we're expecting highs in the low 60s. Our top story, multiple agencies still working to contain the West Monument Creek fire. Tracy McCreary says the fire brings back bad memories of the Waldo Canyon fire in 2012.
We obviously hate it. And it's scary. And, you know, that whole little drop of PTSD from the last time. But we were very blessed and very fortunate then. And we'll just have faith that that'll happen again.
The Air Force Academy is closed to the public today as crews continue to work on the south end of the Academy grounds where a fire started on Sunday. A Denver construction site manager shot and killed 2 people who attacked him after an alleged burglary on the site. One man died at the location, the other at the hospital. The manager is cooperating with investigators. An active duty U.S. Air Force service member is dead after setting himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy in D.C. Before his death, he was heard saying no longer be complicit in genocide as he protested Israel. Bibi and Netanyahu discussing negotiations with Hamas on Sunday.
Appearing on CBS Face the Nation, the Israeli leader said the two are still far apart on negotiations for a potential 6-week ceasefire that could involve the exchange of about 40 hostages for Palestinian prisoners. Netanyahu said Hamas needs to abandon its crazy demands to get back in the ballpark in negotiations. I'm Mark Mayfield.
The Supreme Court hearing arguments today on whether states have the right to provide dictates to social media companies. It's an effort to protect all viewpoints on social media. Erin Lee joined Jeff and Bill last hour, founder of Stop Gender Ideology, fighting for parental rights and spearheading 3 ballot initiatives.
Coloradans overwhelmingly disagree with the things we're advocating for. You know, they disagree with parents being left in the dark, with parents not being able to access all education and records and materials used in the classroom, with parents not being able to consent to mental and medical health care, and with boys participating in girls' sports. I mean, that is such a winning issue. People don't agree with that.
Also in sports today, the Nuggets over the Warriors, 119-103 last night. Nikola Jokic, his 18th double-double of the season, 32, 16, and 16. It's 42 in Arvada, 43 in Lone Tree, 48 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good Monday morning to you, 8:04 in the Mile High City. Up next is Dr. David Murphy. He's a faculty fellow at the Centennial Insitute and Dean of Behavioral and Social Sciences at Colorado Christian University. He spent 25 years in the Air Force, 2,300 flying hours in the F-16, including 274 in combat, and served as an F-16 flight lead instructor pilot and flight examiner. He wrote an article in Town Hall titled "The Biden Doctrine Sets the Middle East Aflame." Do we have him? Is he live? He's not yet. Okay, we'll get to him in just a second. Let's go to line 1. John, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning,
hey,
John.
guys. Good morning. I wanted to present the counter argument, or at least what I would counter.
Please.
The argument, as I understand it, is what you're saying is gender is a societal construct.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, but words are as well, words and language. And I would say words and language are the only way that humans have developed a way to communicate truth about something. And so if I were to say the dog's tail wags, each of those words has meaning. If we're looking at a dog and I say the cat's foot chops, we're all confused. So words, my point is words communicate truth. That's all we have. It is a societal construct, but who cares? That's what we use to communicate truth.
Okay. We also use words to communicate lies. So the idea that just because the word exists, it's only used for truth, I disagree with the premise, but we can set that aside. The idea that the words can, what I'm trying to figure out is how do the words, if we allow someone that is, sexually born biologically as a male, how is that then untrue if they identify as a female and present in society in the female roles and wear the female clothes? Why are they then not considered the female gender? Why are we delineating, and why are we then stuck on the biological? Because in my example, they're two different things. We can have a truth based on biological sex, and we can also have a truth based on gender, and they can be different. Thoughts?
Okay, but can a cat be a dog? If I say a dog is a cat?
You're talking, see, the thing is you're talking biology, and that's different. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about biology. I'm talking about a social construct. Can you treat your cat like a dog? Yes. Can you treat your dog like a cat? Yes.
But the cat's not a dog.
Correct. But what would
so someone identifying as a female is not a female?
Biological sex, no, but gender, yes, because I can treat my dog like a cat. And that is the social construct. In my house, in my experience, the social construct is that dog is a cat. Biologically, no. But that doesn't necessarily change what happens in the society, which would be my house. I know it's hard to wrap your head around for everybody, but that's the issue. That's the delineation.
Okay, but if somebody else identifies as something, that doesn't mean I have to identify them as that, though, either. Because now they're forcing me to use words how I don't want to use words. Right?
Yeah, but tell me this, though. What's the harm? What is the harm to you?
But
if someone else...
We've moved way past the idea of harming other people to mandating this. Like in Canada, for instance.
That's not my question.
The government's mandating this.
Again, I'm not going to deal with throwing everything on the table and having me defend absolutely every argument. The question I had was, what is the harm to John by identifying the transgender person who was born a male as a female or was born a female as male? What is the harm to you?
So you are forcing me into a lie because words have meaning to me. And when I use words like she and he and his and her, that communicates a truth about that person being a man or a woman.
But hang on a sec. Hold on, John. You're going back to biology. This person in our society is identifying as a female. The truth is, based on gender, that person's a female. They present as a female, they act as a female, they dress as a female. Everything that they do is female, with the exception of the biology. You're stuck on biology. Explain to me sociologically why it harms you to refer to that person who could be born the opposite sex as the other gender. What is the harm?
It harms me and all of society by adding to confusion. I feel bad for them. I feel empathy for them. But at the same time, I think they are confused.
See, John, the only person in this conversation with respect to me is you. You're confused. You're having a hard time delineating between biology and gender. One's a sociological construct. The other one is biological. They're different.
They're not different. They're connected.
They are.
They're definitely connected.
Wait.
Dude, up until about 10 years ago, nobody separated the two.
With respect, connected is not the same as same. If we're going back to John,
same.
No, they're not.
Yes,
no, they're
they
not.
are.
No, they're not.
This is so. Why then do you ban? Why would you support a ban on women or men playing in women's sports?
Again,
if they're
hang on. I've addressed that first, and it's very easy. It's based on physiological differences, which then goes back to biology. And I'm okay with the delineation there. Always have been, always will be. But we can also go back to the unfortunate example I gave you about the space rhinos, where they still have one gender, two sexes, one gender. That's the problem we're having. The confusion we're having in this conversation are people that are uncomfortable with the fluidity of gender. Not my fault. Not my fault that you feel that's wrong, John, because again, the harm of you using that word is negligible because you're upset about the sex. I think
it's very fair for John to say that this has sown a ton of confusion. There's like unlimited genders right now. You have Zers. I have no idea what that means. I don't know what a they is. I have no idea what a they is. How do you I agree with John in this. Our phones just blew up. Oh, here we go. John, I appreciate the call. Thank you so much.
For conversation.
We'll continue that. Do we have David? Is he ready to go?
Let's find out.
David, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
All right, great.
Hey,
we're going to switch topics here just a little bit. Ben and Pete, stick around. We'd be happy to continue the conversation. I want to get to David because you wrote a great article in Town Hall about the Biden doctrine setting the Middle East aflame. As I mentioned, he's a fellow at the Centennial Insitute. He's also a professor at Colorado Christian University, but 25 years in an F-16 going Mach 2, 3, 4 with his hair on fire. David, thanks so much. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see David's smiling face there. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. Happy Monday morning, everyone.
Happy Monday morning to you. All right, let's dive into the Biden doctrine. What is the Biden doctrine?
Well, first, reference your last caller. That was an interesting conversation. I appreciate you taking them. What we believe, sadly, results in some pretty poor ideology and looks at life. And I would say that gender being fluid is one of them. And the reason I bring that up is because I just read the breaking news. This Aaron Bushnell, who's the Air Force member that set himself on fire yesterday over the supposed occupation of Palestine. He's dead now, sadly, and he's a member of the service I served for 25 years, and he believed something that was wrong. There's no historical base in any of the decisions he'd made. So getting back to your question, the reason I bring that up, the Biden doctrine, Thomas Friedman floated this a couple weeks ago in the New York Times. He's a favored source that the administration will use to kind of float their ideas. And it's really naive, and it will completely set the Middle East and potentially the rest of the world on flame, if that's even more possible than it is right now.
Well, let's dive in. What are the particulars of the Biden doctrine?
So there's 3 points that Friedman brought up in his article. First, a strong and robust U.S.-led response to Iranian proxies. Okay, so the Houthis and some of the other ones that are causing problems in the Middle East right now. And the second idea was an expanded security alliance with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the other Gulf monarchies. And the third and the most disastrous point would be a diplomatic initiative led by the U.S. to force a two-state solution. And that is the one that would just be really detrimental to any hope for peace in the Middle East.
Let's start with that one first. What's wrong with the idea of a two-state solution with Israel and Palestine?
A two-state solution has been tried for the last 6 decades. It's actually been tried since 1947, and it's been offered at least 12 times in various peace talks all through the last couple decades. And each time the Arab contingent has rejected it. And if we look at the Palestinian motivations, the so-called, especially Hamas, we know their charter famously has the destruction of Israel as they, demand of their charter. So this is not even something they try to hide. The only thing a two-state solution would do would be give the Arabs in and around Israel a chance to rearm and a chance to have a lot shorter range for its rockets, especially from the West Bank on some of the Israeli cities. And it certainly would not solve a problem because it's been tried and failed miserably.
So you can't have a two-state solution, but obviously you can't decimate an entire people group either. So what is the solution in your point?
There's no easy dilemma to the people in Gaza, for example, that have been radicalized by the Hamas. Even the 22 Islamic Arab countries won't generally take them as refugees. So right now, we need to allow Israel to finish what they're doing and to completely destroy Hamas. That's step number one. What to do with the Palestinian refugees from there is a really difficult problem. Recently, Netanyahu is working up a plan for what Gaza will look like after the war, but Israel will never allow a Hamas political authority like the one before October 7th, and they shouldn't. And we should stand resolutely behind Israel in that regard.
Yeah, I don't know how you could live at peace with people whose entire mission is to destroy you. Right? If they're not willing to come to the table with peace, genuine peace, and to allow the Israelis to be able to occupy their own land in peace and live in peace, I don't know. One of y'all's got to go. I get it.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the Iranian proxy issue. Why is it bad for the United States to take on Iranian proxies?
The Iranian proxy, it's not bad to take on the Iranian proxies. The problem is the Biden administration created the issue we have with the Iranian proxies. Of course, Trump had designated the Houthis as a terrorist organization. One of the first things Biden did in his rush to undo everything Trump had done is take them off of that designator and give Iran a bunch of money, try to get them back to the negotiating table regarding the nuclear weapons they're working toward and almost have achieved. And simultaneously, our inability to stop the Russian invasion of Ukraine has forced Russia into the arms of, or actually that has expanded the Russia-Chinese alliance to include now Iran. So the three of them are working together in a thing called the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. That was in between Russia and China in July 4th, and that date was no mistake of last year. Iran joined that. And of course, Iran's been supplying oil and resources to Russia for their war in Ukraine, as has been China, who's been backing Russia. So we have this strong alliance now in the Middle East that the Biden administration, if not directly caused, at least contributed to. So anything we do against the proxies of Iran now, we're risking going against that coalition. So we've lost deterrence, and we've put ourselves in an extremely difficult spot. Now, we do need to keep the pressure on the Houthis and some of the people who are causing problems with the shipping and such in the Middle East. But to do that in the manner we're doing it, which is retaliation, is not a strategy. Retaliation is not a strategy. It's a recipe for disaster, and it's something that doesn't work out well from a military perspective.
You write in your article, by the way, we're talking with Dr. David Murphy. He's a faculty fellow at the Centennial Insitute and dean at Colorado Christian University. You write that the Biden administration accomplished what was seemingly impossible just 3 short years ago, driving China, Iran, and Russia into the triangular alliance. So is the world worse today because of the Biden administration's incompetence on the world stage?
I think it's clearly worse. We have possible wars and actual wars in at least 5 different locations around the U.S. We have an emboldened China that may move on Taiwan, and we have an expanding Middle East regional war that the Biden administration is doing their best to keep a lid on that. But as Trotsky famously said, nobody ever wants war, but sometimes war wants you. And once you start down that path, it's very difficult to stop that. So he's worked himself into an admittedly difficult situation that is going to be hard to determine, especially as Israel finishes this war in Gaza. As long as the Houthis in Yemen and the Hezbollah in northern Israel are continuing with their attacks and such, the region is just on the edge of a very wide regional war that could expand to something none of us hope for.
Doctor, thank you for your time today. I have a question for you. Putting on your hat, and let's just kind of play imaginary for a second, and put Donald Trump back in the White House. How does this conflict change? Does Donald Trump encourage or discourage the expansion of the war? And part of the background for that, I think, is much of the Arab world was angered when he put our embassy into Jerusalem. So what I want to know is, would a Donald Trump White House encourage or discourage the expansion of conflict inside the Middle East at this point?
I think a Trump White House would quickly resume the Abraham Accords. Now, the Abraham Accords started, of course, with Jared Kushner running off the Middle East, much to the angst of some on the left. These accords made a lot of progress. They really shockingly, Israel was able to get a security agreement with the UAE and Bahrain, and they were working with one toward the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which would have been just massive for the Middle East and for world peace. They were on the cusp of signing that before October 7th. As a matter of fact, one thing you don't really hear, but I suspect, is that potentially the timing of the Hamas, of course, the Iranian proxy attack in October 7th, was actually more about this than anything else to stop this agreement between Israel and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now, after the attack, that put Saudi Arabia in a difficult position. Of course, it's a leader in the Muslim world for all the reasons we understand about the Islamic holy sites that are in Saudi Arabia. So they have kind of put this peace process with Israel on hold. So I think you'd see an immediate return to this understanding of the situation in the Middle East. And these some of the Arab monarchies, they don't want the Shia bullies in Iran. The Ayatollahs causing the problems they're causing, and we were working toward that. So I think you'd see that first. I think you'd see a massive return to the sanctions that Trump had put on the Iranian theocracy that had brought it almost to its knees, that Biden undid and just flushed them with money that went to Hamas and to Hamas tunnels, as does, did UN money and to Hezbollah and such, and just reignited all the problems in the Middle East. So the direct answer to your question is I think you'd see an aggressive return to the previous plan, which was working well. And then I think you'd see him deal with Ukraine. He's talked about that. He has a good plan for that. I think he would deal realistically with Ukraine. He would immediately go to talks. Why we're not talking in Ukraine yet we're demanding Israel talk to Hamas is beyond me. We are definitely bipolar in that regard. So there would be progress. It would be immediate. And I think you'd see a lot of this tamped down.
Talking with Dr. David Mercy, teaches at Colorado Christian University, but 2,300 hours flying F-16s, including 274 of those in combat, and served as an F-16 flight lead, instructor pilot, and flight examiner. Dr. Murphy, let's get into the notion of our kids possibly going to war. Tucker Carlson talked about this, the kind of change in the conservative movement against war. You were in Afghanistan for years. I was a big proponent early on in the early 2000s that the war in Iraq and Afghanistan fit just war theory. It was important for us to go over there. And nowadays, conservatives, Tucker Carlson just the other day saying, I don't want my kids in these types of battles anymore. From your perspective, what's changed in the conservative movement over the last decade or two?
I think you see that we are against pointless wars that have no strategic direction. America is quick to be okay to dump money into situations, which rarely works. And look at Ukraine. It's funny, as soon as Ukraine kicked off, you had so many people, even friends that I had in the Air Force, saying, this can be over in a couple of weeks. Ukraine's going to win this war, et cetera, et cetera. But you have to understand how large Russia is, how many people they have, and how large their GDP is with Ukraine. So, the West, not just America, but the West, dumped a lot of money into that situation, but weren't willing to put any people on the line, which they really shouldn't have. And because of that, we have now kind of an endless battle of Verdun type stalemate that is just slaughtering people on both sides of Ukraine. So when we go to war, there has to be a compelling national interest that the people of the U.S. understand clearly. And conservatives have really shifted positions on that in the last year because we don't see compelling national interest in that. Now, problematically, we do have a compelling national interest in peace in the Middle East, but it's going to be tough to convince anyone to send their kids to fight Iran based on our experience in Afghanistan, based on the inept way we withdrew from Afghanistan, based on this perceived and I think actual problem with military recruiting that comes from all the woke policies that have been adopted. If you look at white male recruiting over the last couple of years, it's abysmal. And that's generally the demographic that's, the patriarch demographic that supported the military in the past. And that's really fallen off as people.
Actually, Doctor, the armed services came out with a survey the previous 2 years. And the past 2 years, they say that the recruits are too dumb and too fat. It's not what
I know
I know, but it's not woke ideology. The military themselves say that the people that are showing up, it doesn't have to do with woke. It has to do with out of shape, and then too dumb.
True, but look at the way they've advertised. Go call up right now a Marine or an Army advertisement. You're going to see a be all you can be. I'm going to jump out of this airplane. Old school advertisement. Look at them from a year ago. And a year ago, it was all woke stuff. So they're saying that, but their recruiting has shifted back to something that looks traditional to attract people that want to patriotically serve their country. Now, of course, we had a purge of much of the military with the vaccine mandate, which many young, healthy people for good reasons didn't want to get that. We lost about 8,500 really good troops through that. And we have just had an assault on, we had Milley talking about white rage and all this stuff that drove away the primary demographic that supports the military. This is a real problem. We now have, moms and dads across America that maybe just 5 years ago would be strong supporters of the military. They still support America and they still support our foreign policy, but they don't trust the current leadership. So just look at the ads and tell me if that's accurate, what they're telling us and what they're actually doing to bring back people in and see if that's a believable story.
But with respect, Doctor, are you telling me that the Department of Defense doesn't understand the population they're advertising to? That's the only way that your premise there works, is that they don't understand the people they are trying to communicate to. I have a hard time wrapping my head around the idea that they don't fundamentally understand the person coming through that door.
They have been inundated with woke decisions on how to attract people in the last 2 years. And that has borne out in the way Milley has talked, the way some of the other leadership has talked, the way we don't focus on what's most important, which is combat capability.
Yeah, again, Doctor, I understand with respect, but the military has been, in the history of this country, one of the most integrated segments of our society. We had people that were segregated in our population, and they were serving next to their white brethren, and they had all the equal rights that they could have inside of the military organization before we got through civil rights. That was very open. You would have called that woke at the time. So the idea that the military has changed, I disagree with. They have always been one of the most progressive and organizations inside of our country based on how they deal, because what they do is, once you raise your hand and say, I solemnly swear, they view you as a person. The color of your skin, your religion, your ideology no longer matters. They are one of the first institutions in this country to treat everybody equal. I disagree with your premise. I'm sorry.
So, well, that's fine. So why did Milley say, infamously in congressional testimony, that he had to understand white rage? And then we had a 2-year investigation, which they published just over Christmas, and they found out there is no basis whatsoever for white extremism in the military. Explain that to me. I'm not arguing with your premise that the military was and has been on the leading edge of, and what you're alluding to is racial integration. That, of course, was good. That pushed the country in a positive direction. Now, a lot of it came out of, frankly, combat necessity. One of the things I studied in my dissertation is the integration of African-American troops in World War II, and it was admirable. It continued to be admirable, and it still is admirable, but it lost the ball under the Biden administration. That's the argument I'm making. Just copy ads. Just go back a year, copy ads, and see what they're talking about. They're talking about integrating LGBT, bringing transgender, all this kind of stuff that has nothing to do with what traditionally attracts most, especially males and females, which is serving the country, jumping out of airplanes, going into special operations, things that the military has been good at, that has been colorblind, and has been based on meritocracy up to this point. They're returning to those ads because I think, but they haven't said it out loud, I'll grant you that point, they fundamentally understand they've made a mistake to kind of delve into some of the woke things that they've gone to just in the last couple of years. You're talking more of a, over time, and I don't disagree with your point that over time the military has been good in this. Of course, I've been a blessed recipient of military service, and I'm ever thankful for that.
Talking with Dr. David Murphy, a faculty fellow at the Centennial Insitute and Dean of Behavioral and Social Sciences at Colorado Christian University. I really appreciate you being on. He's got a new article out in Town Hall titled "The Biden Doctrine Sets the Middle East Aflame." It'll be up on my Twitter X account at Jeff Hunt. You can read it there or at the Centennial Institute website. Really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you, Dr. Murphy.
Thanks, guys. Good to talk to you.
Some text messages agreeing with him. We no longer trust our leaders. I don't want to put my kid into this. Pat Tillman was one of the reasons why. And then in response to your question, they went too far. Bill, great grenade tossing today.
You are welcome. Thank you. High five. It's a good question, and I understand what he's saying. And I don't disagree with what his premise was. However, in order to blame this and lay this at the feet of the Biden administration, I would have to see a significant decline in the recruiting that would coincide with that advertising. My understanding, again, I don't know the numbers. My understanding is it was a gradual slope down, that it wasn't a precipice where we fell off this precipice. It was a gradual slope. And
I imagine COVID was a cliff, though.
Here's the thing.
If you were forced to get the shot and you were younger, I think there's a lot of people that hung back on that one.
I understand, and I respect the argument of people not wanting to get the shot based on their job. However, when you pledge to the U.S. military, you give up bodily autonomy.
Yes.
You do not get to, and so the idea that
but
these
we're
soldiers,
talking recruitment. We're talking ahead of time. I bet there are people that were like, I'll wait a few
but
years and see what happens
in
here.
the conversation, it was brought up that we lost 8,500 soldiers, but they don't have that choice. When they raised their hand, they gave up the ability to say, I don't want to do this. So I have no empathy for those soldiers that were let go. You made the deal. You signed the contract. Guess what? I don't want to make that deal. I didn't sign the contract.
I think the contract, not all the information was there.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You don't get to. No, you don't. Not when you're
you
in
give
military.
up your bodily autonomy.
Not when you're in the military.
We're gonna cut off arms. What?
Not
You don't want that?
Not when you're in the military.
We all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and to overcome pain. I'm thriving and fighting back my workout soreness with UltraCur. UltraCur is a patented non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Surveys show that 50% of people using UltraCur find relief within 48 hours and half of those within 2 hours. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro natural grocers and ask for the healthcare coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. UltraCur gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach, and it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to Natural Grocers. Grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial. No strings attached. Wondering about the research? Get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. We'll get to your phone calls and text. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
It has been a wild morning here on 710 KNUS. We've covered everything from Alabama's IVF ruling to transgenderism to Biden's policies in the Middle East. It's never a dull moment on this.
No, not at all.
Going back to military recruitment, I will say this, Bill. I think it's not shocking to me that you've had an entire generation of kids taught through the public school system that America is an evil place, full of racism and backwardness and stuff like that. And then we're like shocked that they don't want to go give their lives for it. Like, it's one thing to have the military as a career and stuff like that, but there's a woke ideology in schooling that America is an evil, racist place. And I don't think that inspires patriotism.
Well, I think that part of the problem comes to the idea that I hear from people that talk about the premise that we shouldn't discuss America's warts, that we have to view ourselves, but we have to view ourselves as always being benevolent, kind, that we're always the best. And I think that's where the disconnect comes from. And I think there is a horse apiece. I think there absolutely are people out there that are highlighting too many of America's frailties. But then I think on the other side, too many people are allowing us to ignore them. We had the conversation last week about, was it last week or the week before, about reparations, talking about the idea that we don't, in my opinion, we don't have an honest conversation about the history of race and civil rights in this country. And the same thing I think we have in gender and the idea of transgenders. I don't think that we have an honest conversation about it. And again, we can get into the military. And that's another one where not so certain we always have an honest conversation about it.
The idea of a career in the military is secondary. The actual point of a military is that you have young men and women that are willing to go give their lives to defend this country.
Yeah.
That's the real reason we have a military. And everything else, education, job, career, it's all secondary. So if we're not willing to lead as a nation, that America is a great nation with wonderful freedoms. In fact, it's the best country in the history of the world. And we should defend the greatness of this nation, the freedoms that we enjoy for our posterity. And it's a worthy thing to go give your life for this. You're going to have a challenge recruiting people.
And the issue is, I don't see how either I don't see how the current advertising can't do that. That's the issue, is the idea that the premise being that our current advertising obviously is anti-American, and that's why people aren't joining the military. I have a hard time figuring out why anyone believed that the military would not be able to target the people that are most likely to sign up and then not send them that message. I disagree with the premise that it is not an American message they're sending right now, that it's a message of weakness. I just disagree.
I think, and I'm going back because I did a whole show on this back when I was filming for Matt Dunn one time. I'm going back to some of the ads that we saw. Some of them were definitely more kind of like identity based, right? That you're welcome to the Army, you're welcome to be here and stuff. And I get that. Like, they want to appeal to those folks to join. But I think what Dr. Murphy was talking about was there was a pivot in the advertising back to that kind of be all you can be advertising, that call to a higher calling, go out there and give your life in service to your country. I think they pivoted back because I'm not sure that the kind of more identity-based advertising was necessarily working.
But pivoted back to what, though? To
the traditional old school, like 80s, 90s, be all you can be, jump out of an airplane, have a ton of fun.
And then his comment was that then disappeared. So it
did disappear.
Yeah. And all I'm going to say
it disappeared. And I think it went more identity-based.
And all I'm going to say is, if it was working, they wouldn't have changed. Because if you're advertising, that's what I'm telling you.
They went back.
I know, but they went back and then they came back again. They've transitioned several times. What I'm telling you is, if your advertising message isn't resonating, then you change the advertising message. So the military is telling you how well that message is resonating right now based on their advertising. They are not going out there and going to spend millions and millions of dollars with a bogus advertising message. The military wastes a lot of money.
I think a lot of corporations are. Absolutely. They're putting shareholder needs secondary to this ESG stuff.
I disagree with that, but that's a different conversation. But if the military wasn't meeting their goals and they were seeing a lull in their advertising, they would change it. And my guess is They saw luff in the social stuff that you talked about. They switched back to the be all you can be, and they didn't see the spike. So chances are they went back because they were seeing more. They were seeing more that way. The advertising message they're delivering will tell you what
they're
they
right
see.
now in the be all you can be.
Yeah,
they're right now in it.
Then that's what then they'll see. Then we'll see if that resonates.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see if that works.
Bottom
Let's see if that
line,
works.
you
Absolutely.
need people to defend this country.
Let's see if it works.
I think that's what we all want, right? We all want people to defend this country. We hope that they'll sign up. You young, strapping young men and women, go defend these great freedoms we enjoy here. We'd love to take your calls on this, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. This was a little bit of a side diversion, but why do you think the military might be struggling in their recruitment goals? Did you serve in the military? What's your experience at? I'd be happy to hear. Give us a call at 303-696-1971. Men, you've heard a lot about how treating low testosterone can improve your sleep, your workouts, your energy levels, and more. But I want to talk to you about your love drive, because low testosterone can have a significant impact on your desire for intimacy. And if you're in a relationship or wanting to be in a relationship, a low love drive can really be a problem. There is good news. Go to RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com and take the low T quiz on their website. It's a simple 10-question quiz with yes or no answers, and it only takes 2 minutes. Then schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic. A Colorado licensed medical provider will review your results with you and discuss your options. Cost of the appointment is only $99, which includes medical consult, T and PSA test. If you sign up for testosterone treatment the day of your appointment, your visit is free. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and successfully treated tens of thousands of men. I went and checked out their operation. Great guys. Call them today at 720-440-7900. That's 720-440-7900, or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. That's RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. Frank, we'll get to you. And Mike, in just a second, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier. Here are the top stories we're following. Apple is rolling out an upgrade to its iMessage texting platform to defend against future encryption-breaking technologies. In New York, Haley Bianca reports.
The new protocol, known as PQ3, is another sign that U.S. tech firms are bracing for a potential future breakthrough in quantum computing that could make current methods of protecting users' communications obsolete. Apple says its encryption algorithms are state-of-the-art and that it has found no evidence so far of a successful attack on them. Still, government officials and scientists are concerned that the emergence of advanced machines that tap into the properties of subatomic particles could suddenly and dramatically weaken those protections.
The longtime leader of the NRA, Wayne LaPierre, was found to have misused millions of dollars of the organization's money. A jury found that the NRA allowed LaPierre to mismanage charitable funds and that he should pay $4.3 million in damages. The lawsuit brought by the New York Attorney General's office said the organization failed to stop executives from spending the money on an extravagant lifestyle. New York Attorney General Letitia James said the jury's decision was a major victory against years of corruption and greed in the NRA. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadier in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
watching Bill just
such a good song.
groove.
Oh, yeah.
Groove to it.
I dance all the time. I dance in my car. I'm a dork. I'm that annoying person. Yeah.
I love the social coming together of this song, right? Luke Combs, and then the original author Tracy Chapman.
Yeah,
That's right.
Tracy Chapman. And it did start as just kind of an idea. He was putting together his latest album. And he kind of leans in and goes, here's a song that I really, really love. And I'd like to do it. And maybe we do it as a cover. And they liked it so much. And he started playing it live. And oftentimes when I'm doing the bar trivia, I'll play a live version of that song. Because just to hear the crowd, just
cool?
the cheer. It is so
white
cool.
country male, black female. Is she lesbian?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not going to sleep with her, so I don't care.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know.
But gosh,
Yeah.
American can get over it.
Yep, they
sometimes.
can.
All right, let's go to Mike, line 1. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Well, good morning. Hey, Jeff, I agree with you. It's good to have a military that wants to have people sign up and defend America and our freedoms, but we don't do that. We put people in the military, then we put them overseas someplace to fight wars that have nothing to do with our homeland being threatened. When we can go all the way back to South Korea, and we can go to Vietnam, and we can go to Iraq, we can go to Afghanistan, on and on it goes. So what's the point? Why would
Mike,
anybody, why would a thinking person want to join the military now and be sent overseas to be killed?
The change that has taken place within conservative thinking on foreign intervention in the last 20 years has been one of the biggest shocks to me, where, and I was with one of them too, but then, 3 days into the withdrawal of Afghanistan, and all of a sudden Taliban kick all the girls back out of schools. I'm like, what we do?
It's not our fight.
Yeah.
It's not our business. We can't even defend our own homeland right now. We are behind on technology. We've got drugs streaming across our borders. We don't know who's in the country. We could have a nuke sent over from North Korea at any moment. We can't tell. There's a balloon flying overhead, stealing our secrets. They're buying farmland. What are we doing worrying about girls going to school in Afghanistan?
Yeah. Mike Littleton, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Mike's line is open, 303-696-1971. We're going to get to Kevin in just a second. Stick around, please, Kevin. We continue to have this conversation. Dr. David Murphy, faculty fellow at the Centennial Insitute, joined us to discuss his article in Town Hall, "The Biden Doctrine Sets the Middle East Aflame," and it got into a larger conversation about challenges with military recruitment and all the things this country's getting involved with throughout the world. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Kevin, you're up at the next top of the hour, and Frank, we'll get to you as well. So please stick around. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
9 a.m. and the good people of Denver, Colorado are out rocking and rolling, making it happen, taking kids to school, out working, changing this country for the better. Thank you. We salute you. Welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's Monday morning, February 26th, and we are off and running. We're going to have Joshua Sharf up in just a second with an update from Israel. We'll get to you, Kevin and Frank, in just a second. Let's go to Blake Olson with the news. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff. Appreciate it. 53 and sunny and windy in Denver under a red flag warning until 3 o'clock. Expecting highs in the low 60s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, both President Biden and former President Trump will visit the southern border this week in Texas on Thursday. Fires continue in southern Colorado. The Air Force Academy closed to the public today as crews continue to fight a fire that started Sunday on the south grounds of the academy. An active duty U.S. Air Force service member is dead after setting himself on fire Sunday outside the Israeli embassy. He was protesting what he said is genocide by Israel. Dr. David Murphy, fellow at the Centennial Insitute, says a two-state solution is not the answer in the Middle East.
The only thing a two-state solution would do would be give the Arabs in and around Israel a chance to rearm and a chance to have a lot shorter range for its rockets, especially from the West Bank, on some of the Israeli cities. And it certainly would not solve a problem because it's been tried and failed miserably.
Dr. Murphy joined Jeff and Bill last hour. The chairwoman of the RNC is finally calling it quits.
Ronna McDaniel announced that she'll give up the post next month after former President Donald Trump endorsed North Carolina GOP Chairman Michael Whatley for the national job. McDaniel said serving as chair for 7 years has been an honor and privilege. Trump told Fox News this month that some changes were likely at the RNC when he was questioned about McDaniel's performance. I'm Michael Kastner.
The Supreme Court will hear arguments today on whether states have the right to tell social media companies what they can do. GOP lawmakers in Texas and Florida argue that social media companies have been quick to tamp down on conservative viewpoints. A Denver construction site manager said he was attacked by two men who were allegedly burglarizing the site and shot both of them during an altercation. Both are dead. He's cooperating with investigators. In sports, the Nuggets over the Warriors last night, 119-103. Nikola Jokic, 18th double-double of the season, 32, 16, and 16. The Avs playing host to the Dallas Stars tomorrow night, and CSU, despite losing 3 of their last 4, they're ranked 24th for now, and they play host to Nevada tomorrow night.
Now, Blake, that was crazy. That Jokic's line from last night, it was what he was like the first NBA player in history to get, and I forgot it was 3 games with so many rebounds, so many assists, and something else. And
No,
you're like,
it's incredible.
it's ridiculous. And he's
It is.
broken the triple double by LeBron by like 1,000 less games.
Yep. I
That
mean,
is
all around game.
nuts.
And that's the thing. I know one of Jeff's kids or boys play
Yeah.
basketball. But man, you cannot overstate passing. I mean, passing the
yeah.
basketball is crucial.
Yep.
It drives me nuts watching young players not able to
Just drive the
fundamentally
lane,
pass.
baby. Just drive the lane. Nothing else matters, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Slam
Yeah,
it.
just
Dunk it.
one-on-one.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
The only thing that that I would encourage those kids to do is that, guess what? If you're the distributor on the team, guess who's going to be the first pick on the playground every single time? If you're
I will tell
score,
you, we're at the age right now where I've got two boys. All three have played basketball. I got two right now.
Yeah.
There's like one kid on either team that just goes back and forth and does layups.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's nothing else.
Exactly.
It's 10-year-old basketball.
Yeah, it is.
No doubt. No doubt. But as you get older, just emphasize to them chest pass, chest pass, chest pass. And kids nowadays, they don't know how to throw an overhead pass. Drives me nuts, man. I mean,
That's a good point.
Oh my
Blake's
goodness.
passions, man.
Yeah, I love it. I love to pass the rock. Love to dish it. And Jokic is a big man. Cleans up underneath on the glass, passes the ball, and scores when he wants to. It's incredible, man.
There were several passes last night because luckily it was on ESPN, so you get to watch it. A couple passes last night. His teammates didn't see what he was trying to do until afterwards. He saw stuff nobody else was seeing, not just the defense, his team. And I watched his teammates come out and go, "Sorry, man, didn't see that." He's like, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay."
And what's crazy is when he was a rookie, and I was working for the Nuggets at the time, and I'm behind the bench, and he was at the end of the bench, and there's no way. I mean, I would see him drinking Diet Pepsis at the end of the bench, and not even, he was probably dialed in, but it didn't look like it.
Yeah.
And he would have been the last guy that I would tell you, oh yeah, in 10, 15 years, he's going to be the best player in the world.
110%, my friend.
No question. All right. Have a great day, guys. 50 in Lakewood, 51 in Englewood, 53 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Complicated from Avril Lavigne. It's not complicated for Ronna McDaniel. She's the chairwoman of the Republican National Committee. She just resigned. And I just want to point this out. We'll get to Kevin here in just a second. Politics isn't much different than sports. And like sports, your number one job as a head coach is to win. It is the only thing that matters. It's what I told Dave Williams when he became the chairman of the GOP. You have one job, and that's to find a way to get Republicans elected. And if you're not doing that job well, it's nothing personal. You just got to find somebody that can. Let's go to Kevin, line 3 in Colorado. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Great, man.
Good,
What's up?
Good. Hey, I just stumbled upon your show, and you had some, really interesting topic and conversation that kind of got me thinking. I was listening to your guest, that professor from Colorado Christian College, and talking about why the military recruitment is down. And I'm a veteran.
Great. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I served under Nixon, Ford, and Carter. And I was thinking that you made me think about why I went into the military.
Yeah.
And really, I just grew up watching a lot of World War II movies, and they were really pro-America, and we were fighting the good fight, and it made me want to be a part of that. When I went to high school, I was in ROTC. And then I joined the Air Force. The Vietnam War was going on, but it was just about over. And your conversation made me think about what happens in the military and how people need to get along to accomplish the mission. The doctor was saying that the recruitment is down because of woke policies. I don't know exactly what he means by woke, but I do know that the first time I had exposure to race relations was in the military. It was 1974, and there was a race relations problem from Vietnam, and in order to function and accomplish a mission, you have to have people working together, and the best way to do that is for people to know each other and understand what we have in common versus what we don't. So to me, that is, that's race relations, which has evolved over the years, the pluralism and DEI and all of that.
Well, I think probably, and I don't know, but I'm guessing part of his concern is that the military at one point was really focused in on meritocracy, right? So it didn't matter if you were black, white. The importance was you could do the job, right? Would you agree that meritocracy is really important? Like your ability to unit cohesion, the ability of the unit to achieve its ends is ultimately what matters most, not necessarily identities.
Oh, absolutely. And it is a meritocracy. I believe it still is today. I like to see a poll or something that shows that it isn't. I think, you can have a meritocracy with diversity, all kinds of people. When I served, there were gay men I know that I served with, but we understood that and we did our jobs. It wasn't a lot of discussion about it, but we worked together and we did, we accomplished our mission. Are you saying that it isn't a meritocracy anymore?
Well, I think, one of the complaints maybe from the conservative movement is that it's moving more towards identity politics, right? Like we want you to be in the army, or we want to maybe fill certain quotas, or we want to appeal to certain audiences. The goal isn't necessarily we want the very best, and we want people that are going to deliver on a job and are going to defend our country well. Like you mentioned DEI, right? Where the goal becomes diversity, equity, and inclusion, not necessarily can we get the best people in to do the best job to defend this country, and you become more focused in on identity politics.
Are those mutually exclusive?
I totally disagree with that. I mean, diversity and inclusion, diversity and inclusion does not mean that you're going to take a lesser candidate for a role.
Well, I think that's a big complaint right now with some of the airlines. Like if United Airlines says we're going to reserve 50% of future pilot slots for people of a particular race or of a diminished identity group, whatever that might mean, instead of just getting the best pilots out there, wouldn't you be concerned?
Now, pardon me, Kevin, what I would say is on that one, Kevin, pardon me, on that one, I would say that's a difference between a quota versus diversity.
Yeah.
That's a difference. And I hope Kevin would agree with me that once we put a number on it and say we have to achieve X as far as a percentage of the population, now we've changed over. We're not actually looking for diversity.
Yeah.
We're looking for quotas.
No. I disagree. Well, let me just say this about airlines and pilots and all that. I happen to have worked for an airline for 8 years as well. They're not going to hire a lesser pilot just because he is a different race or gender, because he's black or Asian or Hispanic. They're not going to hire a less qualified pilot for that. Those are business decisions. When they say we're going to hire 10% black or Hispanic, what they're trying to do is reflect their audience, their customer base. It's a business decision. There are certain groups of people, let's be honest, that have been discriminated in this country for years and have not had the opportunities to get to certain levels. There are glass ceilings. That to me making putting a percentage on it, that's a business decision. You think that they would do that, they're going to lose money? Okay, I'm going to put an incompetent pilot in the seat because he's black and wreck a plane and kill people? No.
Right. Well, I would hope that's the case. But here's what the United Airlines CEO, Scott Kirby, said in an interview. He's ensuring 50% of their graduating pilot classes would be women and people of color.
What's wrong with that?
So ensuring 50% of their graduating class, not we're going to put the best pilots in the best seats. We're going to focus in on their ability.
What makes you think those aren't the best
because
pilots?
That's not what he said.
In that 50%.
That's not what he
said. Just because he didn't say it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen.
But to Billy's point, Billy just said the problem is not diversity, which I agree with. The problem is not diversity. The problem is quotas. He just said quotas. 50% of graduating classes would be women and people of color, not 50% or 100% are going to be the best pilots this airline has to offer to keep people safe. Why does it matter? Why does it matter that you would have women and people of color as a particular quota?
Because they've been held back for those. They've been held back in those roles.
So you would give them. You would give them.
They're not lesser candidates because they are a minority.
Yeah, no one's saying that. But why wouldn't you say that the very best?
I think you are saying that.
No,
I think you are saying that.
No, I'm not.
You're saying why wouldn't they be the best? You're assuming that they're not the best.
No, I'm just wondering why the CEO wouldn't say we're going to graduate 100% is the best pilots. Why create a quota? Why create 50% have to be women and people of color?
Because these are people that bring value to your company. Diversity brings value. This is one thing that irritates me when I do listen to certain shows is that the country is so divided, and our real superpower is diversity. Different mindsets, different ideas, different processes, people looking at things in different ways will make anything better. But, this country, take it the way it is. I mean, it is a wonderful country. I served for 4 years. Okay. But there are some things that are really not good about our country that we need to fix. And if we deny it, we're never going to fix it. You're just covering up. You're just covering up a sore in this country that is just going to fester and continue to grow. And that's what we've been doing. We haven't been talking about.
All right,
diversity.
Kevin, I got a question for you. I got a question for you. And I'm Joshua.
Yeah.
I'm sorry we're putting you on, but this is a good conversation. Let's say a white pilot scores a 85 on an exam and a black female pilot scores an 80% on the exam. Should United Airlines prioritize hiring the black woman at 80% in the exam over the white male that got an 85%? If you had to make a hiring choice, you're hiring for United Airlines. Who gets the job? You have one slot. Who gets the job?
If I'm hiring for United Airlines, I'm hiring the person. I'm looking at the overall need of the business, right? Those scores are pretty close.
So you would prioritize. So go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Well, if there's a goal, if there's a diversity goal, I'll just take a close look and they're both competent pilots, so I may make a decision to hire the female or the one that you decided. I don't know.
80%.
They're both good.
So you would prioritize somebody's race over their performance.
No, I wouldn't. I'm not saying I would prioritize their race over their performance. I would say that performance is the most important thing. So, performance is the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. Performance. And I agree with you that we shouldn't ignore.
Pilots, right? They're both qualified pilots, right?
I mean,
but the business also has goals, right? The main goal is to get qualified pilots in the
safety of their passengers. Yeah.
Right. And they've been doing that. There've been black pilots that have been in those seats. There've been women in those seats over the years. There just haven't been enough of them. You know, it's been a white male dominated role, which is fine. I mean, that's the way, you know, the country was going. But there are other folks, too, that have those skills and bring, you know, they need pilots right now. There's a shortage. So,
Yeah,
you know,
and Kevin, I appreciate
don't
the
think
call.
they're
That was
ever going to.
that was a really good conversation.
That
Thank you,
was.
Kevin.
Man.
I
hope you call back.
I don't
Yeah.
disagree with him that there's been historic racism. I definitely don't disagree with him. There's been horrible things done to people based upon race. There's been setbacks implemented in law in this country based on race, and those absolutely should be adjusted. If there are things still in this country, and you can point to them, systemic restrictions on people being able to achieve what they want to achieve simply based upon religion, race, sex, happy to address those. Those should absolutely be addressed. United Airlines should hire the most qualified pilots, period. End of story. Nothing else matters besides your competency as a pilot.
Yeah, I would agree with you that in the example you gave, I would take the pilot with the higher score, regardless of any other demographic information. And I do agree with you on the airline CEO. I think that it's a little bit, while I understand where he's going with it, I think that is the wrong way to express it. What I'm worried about are, rather than graduation numbers, I want to see what he's doing on recruiting.
Sure.
If he came in and says 50% of our recruiting is going to
Absolutely.
be this demographic, I have a problem with that. Bring everybody in and then see how everything bubbles up. I think the better thing would have been for them to offer some financial opportunities for some of those underrepresented demographics, things like scholarships or stuff like that. Not changing the rules. They still have to meet the same standards. Absolutely. Because I think we can all agree the number one thing we want out of a pilot is to not crash the plane. Whoever is best to do that, we agree. I do not care. Yes, that's all I want. Don't crash the plane and we're fine. We can discuss everything else based on who gets into school and then let the best possible people bubble up to the top. That's basically it.
Bill, I agree with you entirely. If
Seriously?
all you're doing,
it's 9:20 and we finally agreed.
I know, there
It's
you
been a
go.
long
If
morning.
all you've done on your recruitment is go to, like white dominated male schools, you got a problem. You shouldn't be doing that.
Or if you say, I need to have 35% of this incoming class be women. I have a problem with that because I want to make sure that you put the best possible people in place
the
to succeed.
Airplane.
Yes,
That's right.
That's exactly it.
There you go. All right. Let's go
Alex,
to
you got
Joshua
mad.
Sharp on the VIP line. Is Joshua still in Jerusalem or you
No,
make it
he's
back?
home. He traveled this weekend.
Oh,
He came
you made
home.
it back.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Mr. Sharp. Always glad to have you back in the Mile High City.
Thank you. No, it's great to be back. It was great to be there. It's great to be back. I will tell you that when we hit some turbulence over so it wasn't, horrible turbulence, but we had some turbulence over Greenland. I was thinking a little bit about that it was probably a good thing that I hadn't seen Society of the Ice,
That's good.
Glad to get you home safe, my friend. Give us an update on Israel. What's going on?
Well, since the last time we talked, I did a whole bunch of different things. Now, one of the things that I did do is I managed to have some, I had some meals with some folks who actually are serving. And I will tell you, one of the things that's amazing is the younger folks. I don't think the last time that we talked, did I bring up the lone soldiers?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So that's an interesting thing in and of itself. And then that also segues into something else. There's a base. It's not really a base. It's a center, really, in Jerusalem. It's called the Michael Levin Lone Soldier Base. And what it does is it caters to soldiers who maybe made Aliyah, that is, immigrated to Israel without their parents. So they did this as younger folks, maybe right out of college, or even out of high school, and then we're going to go to college afterwards. So they immigrated there, and then they have to serve in the IDF, and they don't have a family there. So most soldiers, obviously, born in Israel, and they're or immigrated there with their families, and they have a family there. Well, if you're a soldier and you come home from fighting or even from reserve duty, it's more important, obviously, when there's an actual war on, and you're coming home to a dark apartment. That's not a whole lot of fun. So also there are specific psychological needs maybe they have that they don't get. There's specific equipment. Maybe they have less access. So the military because not everyone is active all the time, sometimes suffers from equipment shortages. And so, guys will have to maybe buy their own, believe it or not, they'll have to buy their own boots, or they might have to buy gloves, coats, this kind of thing, because it just wasn't expected that you were going to have to call up 350,000 guys all at once, plus whoever was on active duty. And so, a lot of times people's families will take care of that. Well, if you don't have a family, then you're relying on somebody else to help you out with that. So this is a center that is a place where they can go, they can hang out with other folks who are in the same situation. They can get psychological counseling if they need it, for PTSD or for simply having been in combat. Maybe counseling when they're getting ready to leave the military, and then what can they do? Things that are easier to obtain if you have a family there. And so I spent some time talking to some of the soldiers there, helping out a little bit at the base, and then talking to some of the soldiers there. And it was interesting to me. There are guys who do not necessarily handle it well, but overall, between the soldiers that I spoke to at the Lone Soldier Base, and then had Shabbat lunch with some friends whose son from Denver, whose son is serving in Gaza. They, on the whole, Gen Z over there is a surprisingly resilient generation. People who thought that, Israel's gone soft. They got taken by surprise. They made this mistake. They have this economy that's, they're just relying on just having a good standard of living. They've lost their way. They could not be more wrong. There are, like any country, it has issues and problems and people arguing and complaining, and in a hot house like that, politics can be especially heated. But boy, this has proven to be one tough generation.
That's great to hear. We're talking with Joshua Sharf, who's a fellow at the Independence Institute, just back from Jerusalem, serving over there in Israel and defending freedom and liberty in that country.
Let's be clear, I was not wearing a uniform.
Yeah,
volunteering in various,
but doing your part,
civilian capacities.
Yeah, absolutely. No, which I think is just as important. Joshua, did you catch Benjamin Netanyahu's interviews over the weekend on the Sunday shows?
A little bit. I didn't. I was over there. I just got back this past Wednesday, and so I was spending some time with my family on Sunday.
You're still recovering.
I did not hear. What I did hear, I did hear that he is insistent that there will be that the Rafah operation will go on.
That's right.
Good.
That's right.
And also that they will push back by one means or another Hezbollah in the north. And that is also important. Otherwise, people can't. Otherwise, you basically get 80,000 people who can't go home, and they have successfully depopulated a very important part of the country up north. So you can't allow that to happen. So the fact that and the fact is, there's no constituency in Israel. There's no meaningful political constituency in Israel for ending this thing until they've won.
He did a good job defending your right to defend, or Israel's right to defend itself, that they're going to be the ones that lead this war. But then he pushed back on this narrative of kind of, the idea that America wouldn't respond the same way. He really challenged, especially Margaret Brennan, on this, that if, you're not going to live next to an organization that's entire existence is about defeating you. You're just not you're not going to give them space. You're not going to give them land. If they attacked you, raped your women, beheaded people, put babies in ovens and burn them, you're not going to go, well, ceasefire, let's let them have land and meanwhile develop their weapon systems again. There is no way in this world that these two entities can exist together if one wants to explicitly defeat the other. So there's going to be war, and there's going to be war until Hamas is gone. Bottom line. And I thought he did a fine job defending the rights of Israelis.
Yeah, and one of the most disconcerting and really concerning things to come out of the discussions that you see with the administration trying to push. I know we have a hard break at 9:30. Is that right?
No, we go to whenever we want to.
Yeah, for you, we can do whatever we want. We have told them rules mean nothing when Josh is here.
Yeah, I mean, there's something very disconcerting coming out of sort of the rumor mill. This not only unilateral recognition of a Palestinian state, which of course the administration keeps denying, but also the idea that Hamas might be a part of that, might be integrated into that somehow, is just crazy. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. I mean, I understand, no enemies to the left and all that, but I thought even, American leftists would balk at bringing actual genocidal theocrats into a government. There's a real worry there, and I don't think the administration is entirely lying when they say there are no plans for a unilateral recognition of a Palestinian. So I don't think they're entirely lying. I think what they want to do is manipulate to the best that they can from outside, try to manipulate Israeli politics so that Gantz becomes prime minister, and then sort of plays the role of the guy who will recognize the state, even though he can't come out and openly say that now. So I think they're trying to manipulate Israeli politics, which is complicated enough as it is, and I certainly can't give a tutorial on it now. I mean, I barely understand all the moving parts there, but it's I think that's their intent, is to do what they can to get rid of Netanyahu. And listen, it's not guaranteed that he's out after this. I mean, there are people there who think that, the longer he hangs on, the better chance he has of actually hanging on, until the new elections maybe are more favorable. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Like we said with Rhonda McDaniel, it all comes down to winning. If Netanyahu can win, I think things will change. We're going to continue this conversation with Joshua Sharf. Hey, I got to tell you, friends, eliminate the stress and uncertainty of selling your home while still getting top dollar with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team with Keller Williams Sell. Their Sell with Certainty program guarantees your home will sell without even having to list it, and at the same time getting you top dollar. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team guarantee the sale, ensuring a seamless process and eliminating the stress while getting you the best price. Get paid twice with their Sell with Certainty program. Give Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team a call today at 833-301-SOLD. Your home is a significant asset, and choosing the right team to help you sell it can be the difference in thousands of dollars in your pocket. I highly recommend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team, the realtors I trust. Empower Home team provides exceptional service and valuable advice and employs unique systems to maximize the money you can get for your home. Getting an offer above your home's asking price is great, but you're leaving money on the table by not working with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Gay and her experts get their clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive database is filled with pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of your asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Call 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with our conversation with Joshua Sharf. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
We are firing away on a Monday morning, 9:38, Monday, February 26th here in the Mile High City. Joshua Sharf's joining us fresh back from Jerusalem, Israel, where he was serving in a volunteer capacity, not in the military, but helping the Jews out in Israel. And it's great to be able to catch up with him. Joshua, did you have a bill you wanted to talk about? Do I remember that bill?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to you on this bill. Go ahead.
Yeah, not just Thorpe.
Yeah.
No,
There's a lot of talk there.
There was there's a bill coming up. Oh goodness, now I got to look at the bill number. There's a bill coming up this afternoon in the House Finance Committee here in Colorado. This is the state legislature, and it is bill number. I got to look this up. Bill number. Look at that. I can't get to the
bill number too many. I've often pointed this out. There's too many
No,
bills down at the state capitol on this one.
It's giving me a hard time on this. It's not the link. It's sending me to Thursday rather than today. So how do you like that? Anyway, it's a bill coming. It's coming up. It's sponsored by everyone's favorite Israel-hating, Jew skeptical Representative Elizabeth Epps, and
she's come out of her hole.
Yeah, it appears she's actually going to show up for work today, apparently. But on the worst possible thing. So back in, I want to say it was 2016, there was a bill that was put up that would prevented, it passed, it turned into a law, that prevents PARA, that is the Public Employees Retirement Association, Colorado's public pensions, from investing in companies that are actively engaged in a boycott, divestment, or sanctions operation against Israel. So if for instance, I don't know, to pick a company at random, something that
Waze,
Unilever,
Google,
anybody owned. Well, no. Google has operations in Israel. No, Google's there.
Right.
Google has not. Yeah, no. To pick Unilever, if they had an ice cream brand that was calling for the divestment, was calling for companies not to do business in Israel. Say that brand was Ben and Jerry's, let's say, and then that would force PARA to divest their holdings in that company, so that they could not invest in companies that were actively engaged in boycotting or divesting from or sanctioning Israel as a political matter. Now, listen, if a company says, we're in Israel, it's not working out, we're gonna cut our losses and we're gonna figure out what happened, we're gonna cut the operation and come home. That's one thing. That's a business decision. But they're talking about if somebody's doing this for political purposes.
Yep.
And so
it's
that
not even political. It's just racist. They just don't like Jews.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yes, you're right. And so. Fortunately, there have been relatively few companies that have even made it onto the exploratory list. Unilever actually worked a way around this. They got Ben and Jerry's to find another operator in Israel, and so you can still buy Ben and Jerry's in Israel. It's for sale. Certainly, the people there would not be selling it if they were engaged in that kind of thing. So there's that made everyone happy. And so they're off the list. And right now, as to the best of my knowledge, there are no companies that are on the list. But she wants to repeal this. That is, if a company announces that it is divesting from Israel in order to help isolate it, in order to force some political solution on it, then she wants to allow the Public Employees Retirement Association to invest in that company.
Yeah, those are the types of people you want to invest in. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right. So so that is up for consideration in the House Finance Committee this afternoon after adjournment, as they say. So I think the committee meets at 1:30. There are a couple of bills ahead of it. You can expect there to be a lot of testimony on this bill, and one hopes that this thing will fail. Although the fact that it's gone to the Finance Committee rather than to the Kill Committee is interesting. So we'll see what happens.
Are you expecting a lot of pro-Palestinian testimonies on that? We're gonna get all the wackos down there.
Oh yeah. You're going to get a lot of pro-Palestinian testimony on this.
Joshua, I can't. We're talking about Joshua Sharf from the Independence Institute. I can't, for the life of me, figure out how a state where so many of the leaders are Jewish allow this type of baloney to take place. I mean, you don't have, like you say, you could send her to the kill committee and just let that bill have its little moment and then die the grisly death it needs to die. But there's this kind of like toying. And it can't be within the Democrat Party that the pro-Palestinian movement is that strong.
Well, it's getting, I got news for you. Among Democrats as a whole, Israel is still maintains an edge in terms of popularity over the Palestinians.
Just an edge, you think?
Yeah. I mean, polling is kind of dismaying on this, and among younger Democrats, it's obviously in an increasingly small minority. So now I don't mean it's like 5% support, but it's certainly in a minority, and it's a shrinking minority of support among younger Democrats, especially among the progressives. And right now, the progressives are the ones with the energy. They're the ones sort of pushing things along with setting the agenda for the party as a whole. And the fact is that, I hate to say this, but for many Jewish Democrats, this is something they simply never thought they were going to have to confront. They never thought that it was going to be an issue, certainly in their own party. In their own minds, anti-Semitism was always just, a right-wing phenomenon. It was always just a, sort of a Nazi KKK kind of phenomenon. And so it wasn't something that they were going to have to deal with in their own party, certainly not within their own movement. If you're on the left, they never thought that it would show up there. And so, it's not something that they really have given much thought to. And honestly, it's been I suspect that this thing will fail. But Jared Polis, just doesn't make a big deal out of his being Jewish. I mean, it's there, he shows up at stuff occasionally, but it's not like a key part of his identity.
Now, Joshua,
he's
got a question for you.
much better known for being gay than for being Jewish.
Oh, yeah, much better. You're right. He's much more known for that. And I got a question for you on the idea, especially those young progressives, which I think you've identified the right cohort of the people that are changing the tact of the Democrat Party. And my impression is part of that has to do with, we talked about it a little bit earlier, the idea of indoctrination and education. I think the story that is being sold by more liberal educators about the plight of Israel and the Jews is being soft sold. I don't think they're really showing the history. And I'm removing this from the Holocaust. I'm talking about setting up the nation of Israel and having everybody else around you hope that you just die. The motivation and what the surrounding nations have taken with a position to Israel, and especially Hamas. I feel that we have spent too much time shining a light on the mistreatment of the Palestinians, which there is a debate there. But I believe that conversation alone in a vacuum ignores the larger context of what's going on. And I'm afraid those virulent progressives out there that are so pro-Palestinian have only been exposed to that very small portion of history in the conversation. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. I think the fact is that it has filtered down from the universities where it really took hold. It's now filtered into high schools and even elementary schools. And of course, there are people who have an active interest in promoting this, but for the most part, it's filtered down as we talked about before, an alliance between the Islamists and the and sort of the rainbow progressives, if you will, and they've effectively recast Israel from something that you would think people would be sympathetic to, into a white European settler colonialist enterprise. And there's virtually nothing true about those three things. Jews in America have successfully sort of integrated themselves, if you will, into being thought of more as white, because most of it came from Europe.
Yeah.
And adopted the ideas behind the country. And so, even if the politics tended to be to the left, they certainly adopted the idea of working hard, of being successful within, and so forth. And so there was a perception there but in Europe, you would not have had most Europeans calling them white in the sense of being of the same race, of being of the European race. that certainly wasn't so that it was not a colonialist enterprise, and it was not an outgrowth of a European state trying to colonize the region. And so, I mean, certainly there were settlers there, but they bought properties. I mean, the people who showed up were buying property under the Ottomans, and sometimes this, buying from Arab landowners, and they were sometimes this had to be done through intermediaries and so forth. But nobody, went in and just started, shooting people and pushing them off the land. And so it's a completely different story from what what is being portrayed. But the fact that it has been successfully recast, remember, the entire ethos of DEI, of progressivism, is that you have power and you have powerlessness.
Yep.
If you have power, you are evil, and if you don't have power, you are good.
It is the combination of Marxism and radical Islamism that is driving this. Joshua Sharf, thank you so much for joining us. We'll continue to check in with Josh on Israeli updates moving forward until there's peace, which means we'll probably continue to have Joshua on until we can reach peace in Jerusalem, which is what you should be praying for. It's what the Bible says. Hey, friends, Jeff Hunt here for my friends at Dan Kaplan Law. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Kaplan is the son of a police officer. Dan is a former seminarian like myself. Dan has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Kaplan Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche, and he can be yours too. Dan Kaplan Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. Dan would be my first call. If you need Dan's help, call 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dankaplanslaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. We'll take your calls and texts next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier. Here are the top stories we're following. Thailand and the United States are staging military drills with 30 different countries aimed at enhancing relations between participating nations. That includes China, in a sign of efforts to ease tension between Beijing and Washington. Patrick Falk reports.
Well, the Cobra Gold exercises are one of the largest combined military exercises in the Indo-Pacific region, involving more than 10,000 troops from several Southeast Asian nations, as well as South Korea, Japan, and the US. And they're going to be conducting live fire as well as cyber warfare exercises, among other drills. China won't be participating in the combat drills, but will be involved in joint civic missions along with India. And it comes about after National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Bangkok last month.
Former President Donald Trump said black voters are more drawn to him because of his criminal indictments. Speaking to a black conservative group in South Carolina, Trump likened his criminal charges to the discrimination faced by black Americans and said that they have come to embrace his mugshot. The NAACP blasted the former president's comments, saying he wrongly tied his situation to the debate over systemic racial bias in the U.S. criminal justice system. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadier in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
It's been a wonderful Monday morning. I want to thank everybody that called in text. It just blew up. I mean, phone lines full, text messages full. We discussed everything from Alabama IVF ruling and how conservatives feel about that issue to Erin Lee, transgenderism, the gender ideology taking place in schools. Dr.
Space
David.
rhinos.
Yeah, space rhinos.
Check the podcast after that one.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. You're not going to miss that one. I'm
Yeah.
still trying to figure out. He's found my Achilles heel. I can't argue an issue when it's another universe.
Yeah, sci-fi. I win.
There you go. Dr. David Murphy joined us in the 8 o'clock hour on Biden's foreign policy, setting the Middle East aflame. Joshua Sharf in the 9 o'clock hour on an update on Israel. So all of that's on the podcast YouTube channel. Just go to 710knus.com. Bill, it's been great to be with you.
Oh, this has been so much fun for a Monday. How about we do it again tomorrow?
We'll be right back. Charlie Kirk's next. This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.